G'day there guys, basically any character from Silicon Valley minus the intelligence here, back at it again with another episode of r/Am I the A-hole? Now if anyone is the A-hole today, I want you to smash that comment button, like, subscribe, tell me what you think about it, sit back, relax, enjoy a prawn on the Barbie, and enjoy the bloody good content. I know that's a lot, but I trust you. Posted by user Romanian Witch, titled, Am I the A-hole for banning my husband's female friend from our house? Throwaway account because English is not my first language. I'm on mobile, I apologize. I, 27 female, have been married with my husband, male 32, for 3 years, and have been dating for a little over 5. My husband has this friend Mary, who's 31. They've known each other since they were in high school, and she's considered one of the boys, if you may. That basically means that she's always invited to all the fishing trips and stuff, which I don't mind at all. I trust my husband. Well, my problems with Mary started when she first found out I'm half Romanian. It started kinda innocently, with her asking me to say certain words, teach her some insults, etc., which didn't necessarily bother me, but it usually put me on the spot whenever we were out with my husband's group of friends. It only escalated to her Googling stuff about Romania and asking me, are you a vampire? Do you bite your husband on the neck? To, are you a gypsy? I bet you got some gypsy blood in you. Which is just blatantly racist. Last week, me and my husband organized a mini barbecue with our friends, and Mary was invited by my husband, despite me telling him she makes me uncomfortable. He said he had talked to her about her remarks and she's been understanding, so it's unlikely she'll say something this time. It was midnight, and there were about 4 of us left, and I accidentally spilled some red wine on Mary's jeans when I tripped over a carpet. All hell broke loose. Mary started saying that I'm a witch, and I'm trying to ruin her life, and this whole thing is part of my ritual, and I'm just an immigrant gypsy trying to ruin my husband's life, and I've poisoned my husband against her. I started crying and profusely apologizing. When she wouldn't drop it, I kicked her out and banned her from ever coming to my house again. Am I the a-hole for doing this? My husband insists that Mary was just drunk and talking nonsense, and he would talk to her. He also told me I'm way too sensitive about my heritage, and I'm an a-hole for banning her. Mary has since given me a half-hearted apology, but I'm still not okay with her. Oh my god, can you imagine being put in that situation? Dear Lord, the hysterics of it all. What's Mary's problem? Why is she digging away? Kinda seems like there's something going on there, Mary and husband. Is there something you're not telling us about? Why is he apologizing for her behavior? And why is Mary slowly becoming more toxic and racist? It's worse than Borat. I'm surprised they didn't use the line, do not be afraid of me, gypsy. All I want is your tears. Give them to me now or I will take them from you. Classic line, but still not okay. OP not the a-hole, and edits. I guess this is the update some of you wanted. Sorry I'm still a mess, and I don't know how coherent I am. We've talked. He admitted to being in and out of an affair with Mary in the first 2 years of our relationship, and she wanted to win him back, I guess. I called my mum to come help me pack some stuff, and I'm out. That's it. Mary can have him. I've been gaslit for years, and it took a Reddit post to realize. Oh, the irony. Thank you, Reddit. I'm gonna read the comments anyway, because they're just a good time. Not the a-hole. I think your husband needs to reevaluate the fact that he'd be friends with someone that's so disrespectful to his own wife. Also, just drunk is not an excuse. If that's how you are when you're drunk, then don't get drunk. I think the saying goes, drunk words are sober thoughts. A drunk man's word is a sober man's thought, or in this case, woman's. Not the a-hole. She's being racist and your husband should be standing up for you. Maybe down the line, if her behavior improves and you forgive her, you could consider rescinding the ban, but unless that happens, you're doing a reasonable thing and he should be in your corner on this one. Honestly, I don't know if I'm ever going to be okay with her. What I didn't mention in the post is that these remarks have been going on for years. For example, Mary watched that movie 365 days around March, and apparently 2 friends call each other kurwa or kurwa, and started calling me that. In Polish, that could be considered a joking way to address a close friend. However, in Romanian is considered a derogatory, it means prostitute, but like worse, term, and it pretty much no one would use the word when referring to a friend. When told to stop, Mary said I'm too sensitive. I'm just tired of being insulted. It means the same thing in Polish. It's not a friendly thing for like 99.999% of people. Mary is terrible, and I'm sorry your husband has misplaced loyalties. I'm sorry, I was just assuming that there could be a different connotation to the word in Polish, as from what I gathered, the two girls refer to each other as such in that particular movie. I apologize if I offended any Polish speaker. Not the a-hole. Why does your husband want to be friends with someone who is so awful to you? He insists that that is just how Mary is, and Mary doesn't understand your Romanian roots. Why not educate her? Well, because every time I tried, she just says I'm boring. That's so terrible. Have you said that to him? She sounds like a dog whistle, to be honest. Yes, I have. I honestly don't know why he's acting like this around Mary. Every time she does something wrong, he seems to just not acknowledge it. Posted by user Groom2Be, titled, Am I the a-hole for uninviting my mum to my wedding after what she said to my fiancé? This is a throwaway account, by the way. So for starters, I, 28 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 28 female, for 5 years. We got engaged last year, and we're hoping for our wedding to be in October, but we're not too sure right now with how things are. Now, my fiancé is a male to female trans woman. I've known them since before we even began dating. No one in my family knew, except my 2 brothers and my sister, because she and them got really close and the topic sort of came up. My mum obviously didn't. She lives out of state, so she's only talked with my fiancé a couple of times via Skype. Last month, my fiancé posted the trans flag on her Facebook page for Pride Month and talked about her journey. Neither of us knew that my mum found her Facebook a while back and checked her out sometimes. She saw the post and called me. She wasn't mad, but still not happy I never told her, and I said it was because it wasn't important. Or her business. My mum asked why I was marrying her when I knew we won't be able to have kids together, and I said we were planning on adopting in the future. My mum didn't think that was good enough and emphasized that they wouldn't really be our kids. I thought she was being ridiculous and said it's our life and she needs to butt out. Without me knowing, my mum got my fiancé's number and called her. She said she didn't judge her and accepts her, but asked to think about how this impacts my life. My mum told her I always wanted to have kids of my own, and my fiancé being trans affects this. She actually told her to reconsider getting married and decide if it's worth depriving me of having biological kids. My fiancé was actually in tears when she told me what happened, and she admitted my mum's words made her start doubting our marriage a little. Luckily, I was able to reassure her, but I was very angry at my mum. I called to tell her she's uninvited to our wedding. She got upset. She swore she only wanted my fiancé to understand how this marriage changes something I've wanted all my life and that she had my best interests at heart. She wanted my fiancé to really be sure this was the right choice for both of us. I still said I didn't want her at my wedding for trying to sabotage my relationship and crossing a major line. My brothers agree she behaved badly, but my sister is trying to change my mind because apparently my mum hasn't stopped crying since our call. She thinks it's way too harsh to keep her from something she's been looking forward to just because she made a stupid mistake thinking she was protecting me somehow. My fiancé says she's fine with whatever I decide, but doesn't want to cause a rift between my mum and I. It does make me sad to think about her not being there, but I don't think I could stand seeing her face on what's supposed to be the happiest day of my life after what she tried to do. I know she's been really excited about this wedding before, and I sort of do feel bad. Am I the a-hole? No, I don't think you're the a-hole for that. That's kind of an inexcusable thing to say to your own child, and especially not having the self-awareness to see that they were intentionally hiding this from you because they knew that you were going to act this way, and yet you do it anyway. Don't expect that they're just going to accept your words and be like, you know what? You don't accept us? That's cool. Come to this ceremony that puts us together for life, because that's really cool. We'd love to have you there. No. Absolutely not the a-hole in this situation. That mum's got to stick up her ass and she needs to pull it out now, or else she'll be lost forever and not have contact with this son of hers. Not the a-hole. Your wedding is about you and your fiance celebrating your love and relationship. If your mother has deliberately tried to sabotage this and has hurt your fiance, is she really someone you want there on your special day? Think about how your fiancé will feel on the day with your mother there, who is quite clearly transphobic. Would she be the same if your fiancé was cis but infertile? If she hasn't even attempted to make up for her behavior, then she obviously hasn't changed her mind and won't be there to celebrate you two as a couple. And if this is what your mom is prepared to say to your fiancé on the phone when sober, just think of what she may be capable of on your wedding day with a couple of drinks in her and full of emotion of the day. I would hate her to cause a scene on your special day. I wouldn't put it past her to announce your personal information to others in the wedding party. I wish you both a happy marriage, by the way. 100% this. She obviously doesn't respect you and your fiancé's decision to get married. If she apologized and your fiancé felt the issue was resolved, then maybe. Otherwise, I can only see this going badly. Not the a-hole. If she's tried to do it once, she'll try and do it again. And the stuff about adoption is bullcrap. If you want them and love them, they're yours. Maybe try telling your mum about how you and your fiancé feel about her saying that. Make it clear that she's not to say stuff like that again. If she apologizes, then it's all well and good. If she doesn't, then don't invite her. Congratulations, by the way. And seriously consider how she will interact with your future kids. I have 2 kids, 1 adopted. She's my kid, they're both my kids. Anyone who doubts this or denies this can see themselves out. If they don't see themselves out, I have 4 dogs who will help them find the way in a hurry. Posted by user, An Unusual Circumstance. Titled, Am I the a-hole for wanting to move out because of my little sister? This happened a few days ago, but I'm still fuming. Also, this is probably going to be long. I, 18 male, have a little sister, 12 female. From the moment she was born, I have loved her with every bone and fiber of my body. Literally so much that when she got hurt once, I started having nightmares of her dying and me being unable to do anything to prevent it. However, she's a fudging tramp. My parents have always blamed her poor behavior on me. They say that I coddled her too much when she was a baby and such. I have never thought this to be true, especially when we were fighting at such a young age. There have been instances like that throughout the years, including bans on things that she can do, such as play certain games on her computer and come into my bedroom, which is important. Well, I just quote-unquote graduated high school a couple weeks ago in the middle of this pandemic, and as such, my grandmother sent me a $100 Visa gift card as a graduation gift. When I opened the letter and saw it, my sister was nearby and heard me say something about it. I had work that night, so I took it up to my room and left it in my wallet in my nightstand. I change and go to work, blah blah blah. Fast forward 2 weeks, I take my wallet down to the beach where I spend the day with some of my friends, and I try to buy something, and the card gets declined. I'm confused about it, so I check the transaction history, and there's $96 spent on a fudging computer game that a little someone isn't supposed to be playing. This little tramp spent $100 on a game that she wasn't supposed to be playing. Not only did I not get graduation, prom, senior trip, and a bunch of other activities, but my sister decides to add on to it all and take my graduation money too. What the hell? I've told her I'm planning on moving out as soon as possible and not speaking with her for a very long time. She's upset because it means that she'll be left with all the chores that I do and she does none, and because she'll have nobody to talk to, not like I talk to her much anyways. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move out? Man, they really had us in the first half there, didn't they? Dear Lord, I think it's a case of a classic greedy 12-year-old. I'm sure there's lots of them in life, and we've all had siblings like that. Usually you don't think of the consequences of your actions. For me, at least, I was more like, what can I get as a kid? How can this benefit me? And I know at 12 years old, you should be taught that and there should be no excuse for it. However, everyone's different. I don't blame him for wanting to move out, but currently it is not the time for it. You're going to have to hunker down until you can afford to, and until the world is a safer place to do such. I think there should be consequences for her actions there, so she can learn, hey, I'm not a good person right now. I should really learn to be a good person. I'm 12 years old. There's still time to change. And yeah, I don't think you're the a-hole for wanting to move out, OP. Edit. Since everyone is asking, I'll say it up here. I spoke with my parents about it. They have told my sister to pack up all of her toys and games and everything, and are planning on selling it to make back the money she stole. I also found out that she's been stealing money from me in the years past as well. Ticked off is an understatement right now. Honestly, no, you're not the a-hole. Your sister is young and wouldn't have known the impact of what she did, but that doesn't excuse her doing it. Your parents really should step up here to punish her for it. They got me a lock for my door so she can't get in anymore, but other than that, she still seems like there's not a problem in the world. Victim blaming at its finest. Instead of punishing her and explaining what she did was wrong, you now have to be more careful with your stuff. Not the a-hole, and good luck with the apartment hunt. I mean, I don't think it's victim blaming to provide her son with a lock so he can keep his stuff safe. Like, if I was OP, I would be appreciative that my parents are willing to punish her, as per OP's edits, but also not so naive to think that she'll never do it again and give OP a way to feel more secure. I don't see how that is victim blaming. Even if they hadn't punished her, providing OP with a means to keep her out of his room isn't victim blaming, it's helpful. I wouldn't be happy unless my parents got me a lock. Not the a-hole. Where are your parents in all of this? It's their responsibility to punish her and resolve this, not yours. So what have they said? I wouldn't move out over this incident, but I would move out if they are leaving all this to you because it isn't your responsibility. Edits. Have seen the responses to other comments, and yes, I would move out because they aren't disciplining her. This will only get worse. Your relationship will likely improve with all of them if you aren't arguing all the time. Yeah, I don't know, they were really grasping at straws there, saying that it was his fault. I mean, you've kind of failed as a parent. 1, by not taking responsibility. 2, by blaming your son, who's 6 years older, for her, behavioral issues? In what universe, sorry? Posted by user, throw RA a whole bunch of numbers. Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my fiance's biological daughter's college? Title sounds bad, but hear me out. Throw away as family and friends know my username. I, 31 female, have been with my fiance, 33 male, for about 9 years. When he was 16, he got his high school girlfriend pregnant. He did not want to be involved, and they agreed on an open adoption and found a loving family and signed away all parental rights. I knew about this when we started dating. Neither of us wanted kids. We are still child-free, so it honestly didn't bother me. He has never been involved in her, 17 female's, life, but as far as I'm aware, the biological mum has, as well as my fiance's mother. A few months ago, she showed up at our house completely unannounced, and I was utterly shocked. She wanted to know her biological father and where he came from, etc., and my fiance happily obliged and took her out for lunch. She stayed in contact, and they've gone out for lunch a few more times, but it's starting to get really intense, and the adoptive parents have been coming around quite a bit as well. My fiance has kept her at a distance, but recently got a call that her adoptive parents are requesting we pay for her college because they are struggling financially due to COVID and don't want her to have to take out student loans. We refused, and they began guilt-tripping him, saying that she's his daughter. To say I was ticked is an understatement. We both had massive amounts of student loans when we left college, and we've worked our asses off to pay them. At the beginning of our relationship, my fiancé started a tech company that is now thriving, and we are able to live extremely comfortably, and has afforded us to basically do whatever we want. We live in a very nice house, and both have very well-paying jobs and hefty savings accounts for a safety net. We could easily afford to help pay for her college, but the thing is, she isn't our child. We hadn't even met her before this year. He signed away all of his parental rights 17 years ago, and we don't have kids for a reason: we don't want them. I don't feel like it's his or our responsibility to give her money simply on the basis that they're related by DNA. His side of the family is starting to make him feel guilty by saying he has the money so he should help. He started to give in to the guilt, but since we share finances, I outright refused and he ended up siding with me. We've worked really hard, him especially, to build this life and plan for our future over the past decade, and I'm not comfortable with this decision at all. I'm getting an insane amount of hate from his side of the family / the adoptive side for denying her a future, and it's taking everything in me to not tell them to F off. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I'm sorry, but where's the girl's biological mother in all of this? Just because OP has the money doesn't mean that she shouldn't be pressured just like these guys are. This is a rock and a hard place kind of scenario for a lot of people, so I can see why a lot of people would be like, well, it is your own flesh and blood, but he signed his parental rights away. He doesn't have to, he doesn't have an emotional connection with this girl, and she's really not his daughter at all things considered. Just because he happens to be rich now, doesn't mean he should pay for it or should be guilted into paying for it. So I'm gonna say not the a-hole for that. You guys took the hard route and had those debts, she's gonna have to do it too. It's just life. It's just life. Not the a-hole. It doesn't sound like a coincidence that all of a sudden she wants to meet her bio dad, and within a few months her parents are calling to ask for money. While I don't want to assume the girl has only bad intentions, it's possible her parents encouraged her with the intent to use it as a way to get money. When they adopted her, they became her parents. Loans suck, yes, and maybe in the future, if their relationship continues, you and your husband may be comfortable gifting her some money to pay off the loans. But right now, I feel like it's way too soon for her to be asking for money. Completely agree with all of this. It may be suspicious, but that is the age when adopted children usually reach out to their birth parents. It's not the daughter reaching out, it is her reaching out, which coincides with the adoptive family starting to push for money that raises suspicion. Not the a-hole. The adoptive parents are the a-holes here. Firstly, for getting in touch without prior notice or permission. Secondly, for thinking they're entitled to financial help after seeing how well both of you are doing. Lastly, for saying she's your fiance's daughter. Clearly they missed the point of an adoption. It would also help massively if your fiancé stepped up and announced his decision instead of making it look like it's your sole decision not to pay. It also looks like maybe she just came to him for his money, or the parents encouraged her just for the money stuff. I think we can give her the benefit of the doubt, given that she has a right to know her biological parents, and she didn't ask him for money, merely for contact. Her parents, though, seem far more suspect. It wouldn't surprise me if they encouraged her to seek contact. Posted by user Nick Lecoe, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to stop taking her marital issues out on my wife? My 25-year-old daughter has recently moved in with my wife and I. She's been married for 2 years and it's already falling apart. I partially blame myself because I didn't think it was going to work out, but I also didn't think it was my place to tell her. Her husband seems bored and checked out, and I wish she could just cut her losses now, but again, I don't think that it's my place to say that. She's never really liked my wife. She doesn't give a particular reason, but they are pretty much polar opposites, and admittedly, I moved on very quick after my divorce. She's always acted like my wife was a fling, but it's been 13 years now. She approached me the other day and asked if I could get my wife to wear more clothing. We have a pool and live by the ocean, so she spends lots of time in a bikini. She also exercises a lot and will hang out in shorts and a sports bra. I've noticed my son-in-law looking at her, but it's awkward as hell, so I don't know what to say. I told my daughter that her stepmom has a right to wear what she wants in her own house, and that my wife is not responsible for a man who can't keep his eyes to himself. She got mad, but I told her that her marital issues are not my wife's responsibility. Now she's avoiding everyone, and I kind of feel like an ass, but it's my wife's house too, and she would laugh in my face if I told her to put more clothes on. And I'd say that's reasonable. I mean, I don't know what else the husband can do here without pushing, boundaries with someone in his family. So I think he does need to say, hey, daughter, are you taking your marital issues out on my wife here? Is something going wrong at home? Is everything alright? How are you guys dealing with all of this? Do you need help from me? What can I do? Why are you taking this out on my wife? That's the more reasonable thing to do instead of telling the wife to put more clothes on, like seriously. It is not her fault for being attractive and not wearing as many clothes as the daughter thinks that she should be. Let a woman live, love. Anyway, I don't think he would be the a-hole for sitting her down and questioning her. Not the a-hole, but your daughter definitely isn't too much of an a-hole. She needs help. I recommend talking to her about therapy because her marriage is having a toll on her mental health. You've been a good father for not wanting to ruin what she had, but in the future, you should tell her what you think more often. Try to comfort her. Don't tear her down for what she said. Try to get her help. I have no issue with this, except to say that intervening in the lives of adult children is so dangerous. This is particularly true in matters of the heart. Why does this sound so elegant? It's my birthday. Maybe age is bringing me a little elegance to offset the grey hair, and thanks for the sweet compliment. But in regards to his saying, heavy-handed intervening definitely, my mother was always pushing for counselling and therapy with my ex-husband. He talked to her on the phone often, and even now, 5 years after the divorce, I still wonder if she loved him more. She laments what a sweet boy he was. I started talking with my father more, and he was similar to OP. He held back a lot because he was worried I would be angry. My parents are divorced. Realizing that he saw the a-hole side of my ex honestly made me feel better and ended some self-doubt. OP should at least open the door for some communication. Both my adult kids married terrific people, but my son kissed a lot of toads along the way. One in particular was a terrible match. I held my tongue until he asked my opinion of her following a breakdown in the relationship. I told him my truth. It pretty much confirmed his truth. The relationship ended, and 2 years later, he married a jewel. It can be done, but it's hard, but when it works, it's magic. Posted by user David_S12310, titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my girlfriend to bring her own jackets to outdoor events? So, a while back, my girlfriend and I decided to go to a baseball game. It was a mutual thing that we both enjoyed doing from time to time. Neither was forcing the other to go or anything like that. It was going to be a night game and in mid-fall, so it was likely going to be cold. So I brought a jacket with me. Before leaving, I casually suggested to my girlfriend that she wear something warm, but didn't press the issue and didn't think much of it. Instead of wearing something warm, she decided to go with a tank top and shorts. When we got there, it was still a little sunny out, and the weather was not too bad. But as it got dark, it started to get pretty chilly. My girlfriend began to complain about the temperature and snuggled up to me. After a few minutes, she asked for my jacket. Wanting to be a good boyfriend/gentleman, I gave it to her. After a half hour or so, it really got cold. I was shivering and freezing my ass off. Meanwhile, my girlfriend was pretty cozy in my jacket that was way too big for her. Finally, the game ended and we made it back to the car, and I was able to turn the heater on. On the drive home, I told my girlfriend that I don't mind giving up my jacket to put her needs in front of my own, but I would like it if that type of situation could be avoided in the future by her bringing her own jackets. I told her that I knew it was going to be cold, and that was originally why I brought my jacket, so that I could stay warm. I brought up that this was not the first time something like this had happened, and that in the past I gave her my jacket to be nice, but that it was beginning to feel like I only carried it so that she could take it when she eventually got cold. She became very upset with me. She told me that I was being selfish and that I wasn't putting her needs first. She also told me that I wasn't being a gentleman and that I was making a big deal out of nothing. She then proceeded to give me the silent treatment for the rest of the car ride home. We spoke about it again a few days later, and I basically put my foot down and told her that from that point on, anytime we went out, I would not let her have my jacket if I explicitly warned her about the cold and suggested that she bring her own jacket before leaving the house. So, am I the a-hole for putting my foot down on the issue, or am I being a bad boyfriend? I am a little torn on it, because doing things like giving up your jacket for a girl was how I was raised and was taught that it was a gentlemanly thing to do. But at the same time, I feel like it is a reasonable request. Man, I'm really inclined to say that everyone sucks here there, but I just really get where he's coming from. I'm sorry. I want to say everyone sucks here, but it's not the a-hole. He's making a really logical and valid request, and if she can't respect that, then she's going to deal with the consequences of her actions. I mean, how hard is it to just bring a jacket in case? Bring things just in case XYZ happens. I'm sorry, but it's really not that hard by the girlfriend. He's tried to be peaceful, he's tried to be resolute about it, and yet she continues to say, no, I will not listen to your normal requests. So I think she's being illogical, and I think that OP is not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? She's an adult and should be capable of dressing herself appropriately for the weather. You could leave an old sweatshirt in the back of your car though, then when she forgets her coat, she has to get the old sweater to wear. First of all, it's common sense to just check the weather, then you told her to wear something warm. She didn't do either. She's not being logical or acting like an adult. It sounds to me that she just wanted to take your jacket like a girlfriend stealing the boyfriend's sweatshirt type of thing. But that's for kids and teenagers. She's being childish, and it's better to just leave a jacket, sweater, coat in the car. Not just childish, her comments were outright sexist. Sexist and selfish, like be a gentleman and put my needs before yours, which are easily avoidable if she listened to him. Not the a-hole. Some women like to look cute and think that jackets ruin the look. This mentality gets very impractical though, because as you stated, it gets cold. You did all you could by warning her about the weather. I don't think you're being a bad boyfriend. I think if you wanted to be that guy, you could have always had a spare jacket in your car for her, but it shouldn't be your obligation to give her your jacket. I think you should bring up the whole idea of caring about her needs before yours, because you are not obligated to do that either. Yes, you should be thoughtful of her because she's your girlfriend, but it's just incredibly selfish that she said that. Also, why isn't she being a good girlfriend and considering that by taking her boyfriend's jacket, she's just making him the cold one instead of her? If this was the first time, then okay, but for it to continue to happen and for her to argue that it was his duty or some crap is just beyond the pale. Am I the a-hole for taking my children away from their grandparents after my husband died? I, 34 female, met my husband while I was doing an exchange semester in Australia when I was 20. We later got married and I moved to Australia permanently. We have 2 kids of 6 female and 4 female, and I'm 4 months pregnant. My husband passed away 3 months ago. It was, and still is, horrible. With my husband not being here anymore, I want to move back to my home country. I think it'll be good for my kids because the education system over there is heaps better, but the main reason I have is that I need my family. My 4-year-old doesn't really have an option on it. My 6-year-old is excited because my parents have horses. Here in Australia, my husband's parents look after our kids Monday to Friday, as my husband and I both had full-time jobs. So obviously they're close. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are very attached to the kids and love being grandparents. Last weekend, I broke the news to them. I didn't expect them to be happy, but I was hoping they'd understand. They didn't. It was ugly. They asked me how dare I take away their grandchildren after they lost their only son. They said my husband would be disappointed and he'd want his children to grow up in Australia. I had to leave because I couldn't handle the situation. I feel guilty because my husband did want to stay in Australia, but mainly because that's where we settled. I don't think he'd be disappointed, I think he'd understand. But I feel so guilty, but also angry. I feel like it was cruel of mother-in-law and father-in-law to say what they said. I plan to come back to Australia regularly because I don't plan to deprive my children of their heritage, and it has become my home over the years. Basically, is it wrong to move back home? I would say no. Even though Australia is a beautiful country, I would say it's not wrong for you to move back home. Your in-laws just gave you even more reason to by blowing up at you like that, instead of being understanding of the situation like they should be, in my opinion. I think it's very unfair of them to do that, although I can understand that they're grief-struck by their son dying 3 months ago. That is not enough time to really process this situation. And then to have you remove the only grandkids they have from their life, it just feels like they're losing all of their family in one fell swoop. So I can completely understand their actions, and I can't completely fault them for lashing out, but I can fault them at the same time because it's disrespectful to OP and her wishes and her own mental health. So therefore, I would recommend that you do leave the country and follow through with just coming back regularly so that, they at least have some connection to their grandparents and their heritage. That seems healthy. No a-holes here. These situations just come up when a loved one dies. You need your family and they need theirs. I'm not going to call someone an a-hole for reacting adversely during their grief, and I'm not going to call someone an a-hole for wanting a support system. I completely agree with this. Just a sucky situation. Anyway, the grandparents could move too. If he's their only child, there wouldn't be other children keeping them in Australia. I don't think they can move. They only speak English, immigration policy won't allow it, and they pretty much live off Centrelink. But they're welcome to visit, and will visit too. What is your home country? That's a pretty messed up immigration policy, and people try and say America has a restrictive immigration policy. Switzerland. I heard Switzerland is a tough country to get to immigrate to, but it's such a beautiful place. You're lucky to be a local. Yeah, and I think I agree with this comment here. She's not getting to Australia on a regular basis with 3 kids under the age of 7 from Switzerland. Probably shouldn't tell her in-laws that she'll visit often. Edit, just so I'm clear, I think OP should go home and not feel guilty about doing so. However, I'm cautioning about providing false hope to everyone involved, including the kids, by saying they'll visit regularly if OP is unable to commit to it, which realistically is a bit of an ordeal given the ages, prices of tickets, and amount of travel needed. The planes fly both directions. While that's true, if the grandparents are living on Centrelink, which is social security and unemployment depending on their age, they're not going to be able to afford trips to Switzerland. Unless OP either pays for their flights or pays to fly the family each way, trips are not going to be frequent. That said, that should not stop OP from returning to Switzerland and her own family support. It is 2020, communication over the internet is possible, and OP is allowed to have their own family support system. Yeah, add on top of that, the Australian dollar is really weak, so the kids are going to be much better off in Switzerland in my opinion. Even though the standard of living in Australia is great and the wages are high, the dollar is really weak, and I just would view Switzerland as a better country overall to live in her situation. But personally, I just like Australia too much, so I'd just stay there myself. No a-holes here. Everyone is grieving right now, and all of you had valid emotions. They lost their son, and now they're losing their grandchildren. You lost your husband, and now you're alone in a foreign land. Family therapy is definitely needed here, but I don't think anyone is the a-hole. Update. Am I the a-hole for taking my children away from their grandparents after my husband died? It's been nearly 3 weeks since my last post. A lot has happened since. First off, we're back home in Switzerland. The kids are okay. As planned, we moved in with family. The kids are bonding with their grandparents and cousins and the animals. They're set up for therapy, as am I. The events leading up to this. So I went back to my in-laws to explain my side of the story. I told them again that we would be coming back, but that right now I need to make sure that I can be a good mum to my kids. They were very understanding and asked if they could take the kids the next day. I agreed and dropped them off. However, pickup didn't go as planned. The kids weren't ready, and father-in-law told me that they decided it would be best for everyone if they stayed with them for a while, as I was clearly unstable. There was screaming, tears, threats, and lots of ugly things were said. I called my lawyer, who told me to call the police. Luckily, it didn't come to that, and they gave me back the kids. But honestly, that was it for me. Trust gone. I booked flights for us and arranged what I could in such a limited time span. I told my in-laws they had seriously hurt my trust, and that I would need time to think what this means for the future. They were allowed to say goodbye to the kids in person. We arrived at home on Monday. The kids already video called my in-laws, as I want to make sure it's as easy as possible for them to transition. I am very hurt and disappointed that it had to end this way, but also hopeful for the future. Right now, I'm enjoying getting pampered by my mum, who's very excited to be part of this pregnancy. In the future, I'll try to rekindle the relationship with my in-laws. Ah, that's really toxic of them to have done that. I understand they were desperate, but dear Lord, you sink to a deep, dark place to say that you're unstable, we're keeping the kids from you. No. Wow. I'm actually disgusted by that, I'm not gonna lie. You know what their plan was? To try and act as if you were mentally unstable and take your kids from you, possibly sticking you in a psych ward to cement their position. I'd be frank with them and say you don't plan to go back until you get over their complete betrayal and trying to kidnap your children. That you had thought they were going to make it easy to keep the kids in their lives, but they made sure that is not going to be an easy thing. You're now surrounded by the people you can trust, and I suggest staying there and healing until you feel like you want to go back to Australia. I'm afraid you're right. I just feel bad for my kids. Are the grandparents able to travel to Switzerland? Once you're feeling less betrayed, it would probably make you feel more comfortable and secure to have them come to you for a visit. Much harder for them to try to take the kids in Switzerland. I'm sorry all of this happened to you, sending best wishes. I'm not stopping them from coming. I'm not sure if they can afford it now that they don't get any money for looking after the kids anymore. That sounds like a them problem. If they really care about your children, they'll find a way to visit. Trips to Europe in the off or shoulder seasons are affordable, and there are plenty of sales each year too. If they genuinely want to be a part of your kids' lives, they'll make it happen. What they did was unforgivable. They've proven they can't be trusted with visitation on their terms, so be firm. They want to see the kids, they come to you to do it. Kids are resilient, and as long as you monitor those calls so the in-laws don't try and manipulate them, you should be good. The kids probably love being in a new wonderful country, will find it amazing, and will be too busy learning the language and trying new things to miss Australia too much. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and with the quarantine only just lifting, it's not much fun here right now. You would have experienced this while still here, so they already had a separation from their friends. This is just extending it. They can still get online and catch up with them. Posted by user Telethesis, titled, "Would I be the a-hole for taking a job with my dad's biggest client, meaning he won't get any more work with them? My dad has a business that me and my brother work for. My dad wants to leave the family business entirely to my older brother. He says it makes the most sense because my older brother is his oldest child and has been in the business the longest. He has a business degree and knows much more about the business side of this work. While I do the physical aspect of the job very well, I was a bit impulsive when I was younger, so he doesn't think it would be a good idea for me to be in charge. To be honest, I don't think it would be either, but considering how much I contribute to this business, and that I'm his son too, I think I should at least get some say in the future of the business and a stake in the company. Not even half, but some. In the end, my father said no, but that I would get some money after he died. The whole thing really ticked me off, and I was starting to get bitter continuing to work there and be around them, so I gave my 2 weeks notice. I've just been trying to keep a neutral demeanor the whole time. This week is my last week, and Jared, the guy that represents our biggest client, was asking if I could take care of his other project next week. So I told him I would pass that along to my brother, but that I'm not going to be working here next week. Jared and I talk a lot and are pretty friendly with each other because I'm the one that mostly works this job. We've actually hung out outside of work a few times. So he asked why I was leaving. I just said for personal reasons. He asks where I was going to be working, and I told him I wasn't sure yet because there's not a lot of business that needs employees with my skills. Anyway, today while I'm working, Jared's boss comes down and asks me if I'll consider working for them. He said he's been thinking for a while of doing all this work in-house, but has been having trouble finding someone experienced enough since it's such a specialized field. He said he's always been very happy with my work, and that's why they always request me. He offered me a 3-year contract, and the salary is so much more than I ever would have made at my dad's company, plus it comes with benefits and an office. Not sure exactly what I'll do with an office, but that seems pretty cool. I also get to pick out the equipment, and I can hire 2 employees to work under me. Overall, it's an amazing deal, but I know that losing this client will hit my family business hard. At the same time, it's not like I was asking for it or trying to steal their clients. He was the one that came to me and wanted me. I thought about maybe using this as a bargaining chip with my dad to get some say and a stake in the company. But honestly, I don't want to get it that way, and I just don't want to work with either of them anymore. Edits. I really regret putting the whole bargaining chip in this post. People seem to keep focusing on me doing that when I say right afterwards that I don't want to do that and don't want to even work with them anymore. It was just a fleeting thought, guys. Edit 2. Seriously, guys, not actually planning on bargaining or negotiating with my dad or brother. I'm gonna say OP is not the a-hole if he takes this job, but he will cause a lot of turmoil in his family and be viewed as an a-hole by them for potentially screwing a lot of their budgets and profits, which I can understand, but OP I think needs to look after himself, and the brother, if he's a good businessman, will find more clients elsewhere. But obviously, each to their own with their opinions on this one. That's just mine. Not the a-hole. Unless you use this to pressure your dad, just go and take the job. I agree, but it sounds like a rock in a hard place regardless, as he can either blindside his family by potentially crippling their business, or tell them ahead of time, which my gut reaction says it is the right thing to do, as we don't know what percentage of their business comes from this one client. But I would bet that prompts a predictable reaction from the family to preserve their livelihood. I don't envy OP's position, but I feel like this is a more nuanced conflict than people are treating it. It sounds like this client intends to eventually do this work in-house regardless of what OP does, so the family business is going to lose the client anyway. The family should be happy OP has this amazing job offer that can greatly improve their life, not the a-hole. This is the perfect response to how a caring family should react. I understand those words individually, but can't make it out put together like that. Caring? Family? Not on this subreddit. Given that OP is bypassed in the family business that he's worked in and done the majority of physical work and would essentially become an employee under his brother, I don't think this is entirely a healthy and caring family dynamic anyway. OP wasn't actively poaching clients. He was already preferred by the clients, and the client approached him when learning he was available. While it will hit the family business, driving away one of the key people will generally impact a business. OP, I assume you've checked you don't have an enforceable non-compete clause in your contract, if you even have a contract. I'd assume not, but you never know. I think putting in your 2-week notice was the final bargaining chip. If they didn't care enough to keep you then, they aren't going to care enough to keep you now. They'll just want their client back, and who knows what will happen after that. Maybe they keep their word to you, maybe not. Take this job, secure your future, but be prepared for the backlash of your family, not the a-hole. Yeah, family is the hard part. Agreed with everyone saying don't bargain, but also plan out how you would tell your family with the best outcome. For instance, maybe make sure to tell them when they're both there, so no one feels like, why did you tell dad first? Make sure you practice telling the story chronologically to make sure they know you didn't try anything fishy. Make sure to practice their potential reactions and how you might try to diffuse their anger. Maybe tell them when mum and other siblings are there, because they can act as the voice of reason after. Good luck, OP. OP also says that they did sign a contract, but they're pretty sure there wasn't a non-compete clause. Let's hope that's the truth. Updates. Would I be the a-hole for taking a job with my dad's biggest clients, meaning he won't get any more work with them? So, it's been a while since my first post, and things have been settled. I felt like a good amount of y'all said it was okay to take the job. There were a few that said I should give my dad and brother a heads up that this was all happening before I accepted the job so as not to blindside them. So that's what I did the day after I made my original post. The talk itself didn't go so smoothly though. They got pretty angry. My dad said this was a reason why it should have been bad to give me part of the business because I'm selfish and only think of myself when he's trying to keep over a dozen people employed. My brother said I was basically betraying the family because I didn't get something that I didn't really deserve from them. I didn't exactly want to stay around them anymore after that, so I just walked out of there early that day and decided not to finish out the rest of the week that I was going to. Later, I called to formally accept the job. The equipment we ordered only came last week, so I was basically just being paid to stay at home and do nothing for the first few weeks. It was actually nice to have a break from everything before diving into work again. It's been pretty great at the new place though. My new workspace is a lot different, nicer, than my dad's shop. It's wide and open. It has air conditioning, assigned parking, so no more fighting for a spot on the streets. The office they gave me isn't huge, but it's also nice. Like I said in my previous post, I don't have much use for an office, but it's still nice to have a private place to myself, especially one with a mini fridge. Overall, I definitely feel much more appreciated here than I ever felt working with my dad. Speaking of which, I haven't talked to my dad or brother since, and I don't think I will. I had heard from Jared that right after I had left, after talking to them about the job, they had called my new boss and tried to deter him from hiring me. I also heard from a cousin that my dad's business isn't doing so well right now, and they had to let some people go and are downsizing. Some of their clients had shut down their businesses due to COVID, so that combined with losing their big clients permanently hit them hard. Anyway, there's not much more to say than that. Many of you were right, and it all likely did permanently damage my relationship with my father and brother, but I still want to say thank you to everyone who encouraged me to take the job. It's unfortunate that your dad and brother didn't consider the potential consequences of their decision. I'm sorry they've chosen to make all of this your fault, blaming you for looking after yourself and your own future. I wish you the best of luck in the new job, and hope that your family will eventually be able to mend things. It's the classic, well, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions. Also, they're mixing up cause and effect. Business partners are responsible for looking out for the well-being of the business. Employees are responsible for doing a job in return for money. Your father and brother made a decision that you are an employee instead of a business partner, and now they're mad at you for acting like an employee instead of a business partner. If they actually wanted you to act in the best interests of the business, instead of seeking the highest pay and best working conditions for the job that you're paid to do, they should have cut you in as a part owner so that it would actually be one of your responsibilities. This is probably one of the best succinct breakdowns I've seen to help prevent misplaced company loyalty. Yep, guy hit the nail on the head. It's what I was thinking, but I wouldn't have phrased it so well. It's also just hilarious that he didn't deserve it when him leaving seems like it may have caused them to go out of business. Seems like you may deserve stuff if the entire business relies on your continued employment. Really though, if their business can't handle him leaving, then clearly that he was more valuable than they were recognizing. Also, this company was already looking to do work themselves. If the guy they always use had left the company, that probably would have just pushed them to doing it in-house anyway. This whole situation was pretty tough, so you've managed pretty well overall. On one hand, your dad employed you and enabled you to learn everything you know. On the other hand, expecting to keep your head down and be a silent, good worker, while your brother with the business degree gets to control, is bullcrap. You came up with a good compromise to split the business, so all bets were off as soon as your father declined. He can call you selfish all he wants, he was clearly not appreciative of the work you were doing. Posted by user Federal Geologist, titled, "Would I be the a-hole if I invite my ex-fiance, who I know still has feelings for me, to the wedding? I dated my ex-fiance Linus for 6 years, and prior to that, we were very good friends and part of the same friend group since college. We broke up 2 years ago because I started having feelings for my now fiance, Jano. The breakup was emotional, but Linus said that he understood and thanked me for not cheating on him. We stayed friends and continued to spend time together with our friend group. When I started dating Jano, my friend Tessa told me that Linus said he thinks I won't be with Jano for long because of the differences in our social and economic backgrounds, and that when we break up, he is sure that I will go back to him. It was difficult to hear, but I thought to myself that Linus was understandably upset that I'm dating the man who is the reason why I broke off our engagement. So he must be saying things to make himself feel better. In the almost 2 years that Jano and I have been together, Linus has been nothing but kind and helpful to us. He was always nice to Jano and even introduced him to his friends who were able to help Jano with his work. Linus never made romantic advances towards me, and he dated other girls, so I thought that he already moved on. Jano and I got engaged recently, and last weekend, while I was working on my guest list with Tessa, she told me that Linus was upset and spent the night drinking when he learned of my engagement. I asked our friend Hans if it was true, and he told me it was. I was surprised, because the day after our announcement, Linus sent messages to me and Yano congratulating us and wishing us the best. I decided to talk to Linus, and he admitted that he still has feelings for me, but he said that he accepts that I don't feel the same, and he respects my relationship with Yano. That's why he befriended him and never made advances towards me. He said he's heartbroken for himself, but happy for me. I still wanted to invite Linus to the wedding because it feels wrong to not invite him, given that he's my friend. He's part of my friend group, and everyone else will be there, and he has done a lot for me and Yano. Yano has no issues with me inviting Linus, because he says he can't get angry at Linus for still having feelings for me when he never acted on it and was always kind to us. But Tessa pointed out that we should think about it carefully, because knowing what we know, inviting Linus will be like rubbing salt in the wound. Like telling him, I know you still love me, now here's your front row seat to come and watch me get married to the guy I left you for. Would I be the a-hole if I still invite Linus to my wedding? Now that you put it that way, I think you would be, in all honesty. I think this is like a cycle of grief or some sense of loss that Linus is going through, and I think that he's already had a night of drinking that probably detached him a bit. I feel like you're just going to repeat that damage to him if you invite him to the wedding. I understand he's going to have resentment if he doesn't get to go, but I feel like if he does go, that's something that's not going to leave him for the rest of his life. I know I would be very upset if that was me in that situation, and I wouldn't actually want to go to the wedding if I was him. So I think it's best to be the a-hole and just not have him there. You're the a-hole. Knowingly inviting someone who has feelings for you and who is just waiting for the opportunity for you and your fiancé to break up is not fair to your fiancé. I will never understand how people don't see it as narcissistic for someone to keep their exes hovering around like this. If I know someone has feelings for me, they are kept 100% separate from my relationship. Yes, I agree. I'm perfectly fine with being friends with an ex, as long as I know they don't have feelings. But it can be incredibly damaging to a relationship if one of the partners is good friends with someone who has feelings for them. Yup, and it's one of those things where responsibility for creating distance falls on the one who they have feelings for. The person orbiting is looking at it like an all's fair in love and war situation, otherwise they'd have a little more class and move on. If the current partner presses the issue too much, it's too easily spun into them being jealous. You were with the guy for 6 years, engaged to be married. He broke up with you to be with another chick, seemingly got engaged pretty quickly because now it's 2 years later, and they're planning the guest list for their wedding. You've pretended to move on with your life in front of him, but the rest of your friends know the truth. That you are so madly in love with him that you'd rather stay on his good side in hopes that his new marriage will one day crumble, and you can sweep right back in where you left off, having never actually moved on yourself. Being invited to his wedding, saying his vows with his new bride, a woman you've befriended in this whole mess, in order to stay close to him, is going to hurt you. But you can tough through it. Seeing him kiss her and completely in love with her is going to hurt you. But you can tough through it. Knowing they will consummate that marriage later that night is going to hurt you, but you can tough through it, right? Right? No. Maybe that part will be too much and you'll break. Maybe you'll break during the vows. Maybe you'll stand up and make a grand romantic gesture and object to the two getting married. Just like in the movies, right? But that would make you the a-hole. But only because he's the a-hole for putting you in this position. Oh, I'm sorry, I had the roles reversed. You're the a-hole. Or, there's this thing where you're not entitled to other people's attention and love, and the ability to decline a wedding invitation. Linus is responsible for his own romantic hang-ups. In fact, by inviting him, she's giving him a choice. By not inviting him, she would be making the choice for him. Like, a lot of people would see the wedding invitation as an obligation of being a good friend. Yes, technically he can decline, but to be a supportive friend, he probably wouldn't. Why put him in such a crappy position in the first place? It's a very good question. But the more I look into it, the more I want to change my stance to that no one's the a-hole here. This is just a really messy situation, and a lot of people continue to point that out. I'm sorry if I've phrased these comments as just you're the a-hole. I can agree with you if you think no one sucks here either. Update. Would I be the a-hole if I invite my ex-fiance, who I know still has feelings for me, to my wedding? Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. I would like to give you an update on the situation I posted about last year. The two top answers said I was "you're the a-hole if I invite Linus." That's alright, but what I had a hard time accepting was the commenters that said I was a narcissist for keeping my ex hovering around like this, because I know that I absolutely didn't do that. After we broke up, my relationship with Linus was purely platonic, and he even dated other girls during that time, so I really thought we had both moved on, and we were carrying on with our friendship as members of the same friend group. Most of the answers after the top two said no a-holes here, and suggested something that really resonated with me. This was to talk to Linus and tell him that while I would like to have him in my wedding, I understand if he can't do that, and don't want him to feel obligated to attend. That way, I can let him make the decision instead of making him feel left out, since I'm inviting all our other friends, and he won't have to feel like he has to go to be polite. So, Yano and I talked to Linus, and I'd like to thank Onserevera for his or her comments, because it's almost exactly what I told Linus. I want you to know that I really value your friendship, and I'd love to have you at my wedding if you want to be there, but I also completely understand if you don't feel comfortable attending. It's totally up to you, and I won't be offended if you choose not to come, but I want you to know that the invitation is open. Linus was gone for a while, but came back this year and attended our wedding last month. There were some commenters who said that if I invite him, I should have some friends seated near him in case he tries to make a scene, but there was none of that. We chatted for a bit, and he said he was great and just opened a new business. He seemed happy, and Yano and I are happy for him. Thank you to everyone who replied to my post, and those who wished me well. I had great advice from here, and things fortunately turned out well for me, so I'm very thankful for that. I love how everyone is just happy in this situation. I know I didn't read your original post, but I lurked at it, and I wish you and your significant other the best. Linus for sure isn't really happy. It's been a year, and we don't know Linus. He might be more genuinely over it now, and even if he's not completely there yet, he might still be happy. Everyone in this situation seems pretty reasonable and open. He's not being unrealistic. I hope the best for them all. Yeah, that guy's treating the situation as a soap opera. Life isn't always a salty situation like that. I'm sure Linus probably got over it. One of the limitations of a sub like this is that we're given extremely limited information on which to judge a situation, so we tend to treat characters and situations very two-dimensionally. But people are never just one thing, and situations are rarely black and white. We don't know any of the people involved, but you do. So to any potential posters out there, take our comments with a grain of salt, and please don't destroy any relationships over what bored teenagers living in their parents' basements have to say. Yeah, I made a post here and got called the a-hole. Someone else made an almost identical post from the other perspective, and also got called the a-hole, and that's when I realized not to take the votes here seriously. For anyone curious, my post was about asking my husband to poop in the separate toilet, not the toilet that shares a room with my shower because of the smell. We ended up talking about things, and it turned out my husband is slightly germophobic and just didn't want to use the toilet that guests had access to. We compromised. He now only uses my shower room toilet when we actually have guests over, and we just make sure to disinfect the other toilet if a guest has to use it so he doesn't feel gross about it. Am I the a-hole for refusing to lie to my mother's husband about how I met my husband? My mother and I have never gotten along. She's very serious, overachiever type A, and I've always clashed with people like that. She's also pretty self-righteous about things like pride and work ethic, and she just isn't my type of person. I feel bad because I'm her only child, and I really wish she had a daughter she could actually enjoy. My mum wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer because that's what her friends' kids were doing, but I rebelled pretty hard against school. I left home the day I turned 18 and got by through modeling, working at clubs with a fake ID, and dating rich men. She always said I would understand her disappointment when I had daughters, but I have two, and I can't imagine being ashamed of something so petty. I met my husband when I was working as a yacht girl. That kind of just means I was paid by rich men to party on their boats and keep the guests entertained. I did date some of these men, and they were very generous. My mum views that as prostitution. I don't know if I agree, but I 100% think prostitution should be legalized, as I don't really care. I met my husband, and he scandalized his entire family by marrying one of those girls. And we've been pretty happy for 18 years. I do have an easy life, and I'm not going to lie and say it has nothing to do with looks, but they were my looks to do whatever I want with. My mum doesn't like my husband. She thinks we both partied too much, and she was hoping I'd grow up and do something respectable one day. She hates that he enables me to have the life she didn't want me to have. Well, I met her new husband the other day, and he works in finance, is a nice enough guy, but very straight-laced. He asked how I met my husband, and I told him the true story. My mother was furious, and I did know she would want me to lie or leave some details out, but it's my story to tell, and I'm not ashamed of my life. My husband thinks I should have lied and said it was full-on prostitution, but he's kind of an ass. My mum actually cried after dinner. So, am I the a-hole? I'd say no. As you said, it's your story to tell in this one, and I think that your mum should respect that, but it doesn't sound like she ever is going to respect that. And it sounds like you know how to navigate these situations. Sure, it's a new person coming into her life, but that's no excuse for you to change who you are all of a sudden. So my recommendation is you keep being you, OP. I appreciate it. Not everyone has to accept it, and that's just life. You're not the a-hole in this situation. In regards to the husband saying it should have been full-on prostitution, I like him, and you. Not the a-hole. Your mother sounds like a narcissist, and you didn't turn out to be the ornament that she wanted. Tough crap, continue to be happy. Thanks for helping me rethink the sentence. I thought the husband agreed that OP should have lied because they did meet via prostitution. OP, not the a-hole. There is absolutely nothing shameful about how you met. It's similar to a customer meeting a server at a bar. You guys have been together for 18 years. That's not an insignificant amount of time. Stay happy. She actually doesn't sound like a narcissist. Don't backseek diagnose. She sounds like an overbearing, uptight mother who cares way too much about what others think. Doesn't change the judgment, but narcissism is a lot more complicated than that. Yeah, so overbearing. Like, I want my daughter to get a job so she can be financially independent and take care of herself. Ugh, those parents are the worst, am I right? Not the a-hole. We've been very happy for 18 years. I think it's pretty clear that your relationship is more than just a bit of fun at a party, and your husband's response also suggests to me that you two have a strong relationship. Your mother sounds like she cares more about appearances than your happiness, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. You lived the way you were happy and found your husband along the way. She should be happy for you and proud of you. The mum's like, I don't like the way you live your life. Okay, keep looking, hubby, we gotta find who the hell asked. And it's more than looks. Even if we assume OP got married at 18, the youngest she could be right now is 36. Obviously that's not old, but if her husband was shallow and only valued her for looks and sex, he would leave her for a teenager or other younger women, because how you looked 18 years ago is different from how you look now. And I'm assuming she had some bodily changes from pregnancy, and he's fine with that too, so clearly it's not the I'm your trophy wife, give me money sort of thing her mum thinks it is. I'm probably going to get downvoted for this, but I think everyone sucks here. Your mother is obviously way too judgmental, but I think you said that to provoke her and make things uncomfortable. I'm sure in front of new people you often say you met your husband at a party or that you were a hostess at the party, which is true. But if you chose to say you were paid to be hot on a yacht with rich men, and that's the end of the sentence, they didn't continue from there. This was my take too. I don't see why it's so hard to understand why a parent would want their child to be successful. Personally, I don't think being hot contributes as having achieved anything, but that's just my own personal take. The fact OP had to break down the intricacies of their meeting to us suggests that OP is also aware of why people would be judgmental, so it screams double standards. Doesn't agree with her mother judging her, but will actively make sure the internet doesn't judge her. Everyone sucks here. There's lots of votes after this of everyone sucks here and you're the a-hole, so I guess it really depends on how you view this situation. I don't blame anyone for disagreeing with me. Posted by user Drama Regarding Kids, titled Am I the a-hole for shutting down talk about having kids with purposefully controversial statements? So, our region has done well handling COVID. So my husband and I had a small group of family over for a backyard barbecue a month ago. We're the only ones in the family left who don't have kids. We're not going to. We prefer our lives as mountaineers. His family thinks we'll change our minds. Mind you, husband had the snip. Mother-in-law jokingly mentioned that maybe with all the alone time, we'd be giving the family a little bundle of joy. We shut the idea down with good humor. She kept pressing, and sister-in-law chimed in with, "Come on, this is the perfect time to get started. We've talked about this already, let's drop it." Well, I don't care. Again, drop it. I just hope it happens. Thankfully, we're very careful. Accidents happen. It isn't always up to you. Or, yes, it is. I had a vasectomy. Like I said, discussion over. Can we move on? We do, but mother-in-law and sister-in-law are whispering with each other and shooting glances, looking at their phones, etc. Brother-in-law and I are laughing about something dumb on TV. Seems like everything is fine. Until sister-in-law says, "Vasectomies can fail, you know. It's not a 100% thing." It gets quiet. Mother-in-law and sister-in-law look smug. So there's still a chance you can get pregnant. You can never be sure. Husband and I lock eyes. Party's over. And I say, that's exactly what abortions are for. Q, screaming and yelling, "I'm an evil, cruel tramp. What kind of monster," etc. His family are all supposedly pro-choice. Husband yells at them to get the hell out. "Don't talk to me like that." Mother-in-law gets up in his face and yells that I said I would kill her grandbabies. How could he stand to hear it? And I would hold her fudging hand the entire time because it's what both of us would want. Party's over. Q, Facebook crapstorm. Mother-in-law's post tags us, says, "We're having a nice family get-together, and OP and husband had bait us with purposely controversial statements. Every mum lives to see her babies have babies. Yesterday, I was told that my cruel daughter-in-law would murder my grandbabies if she got pregnant, and my son would hold her hand while she did it. I do not feel like we're a-holes, even for how we handled the situation. There was no getting through to them without being direct and final. This isn't the first time we tried to get them to drop the subject. However, other family members really think we're in the wrong and that I went over the line. Reddit, are we the a-holes here? In my opinion, absolutely not. They overstepped so many boundaries in this interaction, and they continually pushed those boundaries, knowingly. It's clear they were looking for a direct answer, and it's clear that they were expecting something controversial, with so much pressure being put on you guys. They're just playing up for the sake of playing up, because I suspect they've always known that the answer was going to be no. They just want a reason to be angry. It's like someone saying to you, "Come on, what are you going to do, punch me in the face? What are you going to do, stab me?" And then they get stabbed, and they're like, "Oh, what? You stabbed me? Why?" That's my simplistic view of the situation, and that's the reason that OP is not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You both are probably going to have to block her and cut her out for a while. Life is too short for this kind of drama. Even if we lived up to 1,000 years old, life would be too short for this crap. I would genuinely say life is too long for that kind of drama, because it'll never be a one-time thing. That sort of meltdown will happen all the time. The idea of 1,000 years of that BS is exhausting. I genuinely like this way of looking at it. It's more terrifying when you imagine having to deal with it forever. I think bringing up abortion was the wrong route. Always go with, "We aren't worried about kids, mother-in-law. You can't get pregnant from anal." Not the a-hole at all. They started it. I also would have asked them why they're so interested in your sex life, lol. Long term though, you may consider using the grey rock method with them, which might have more sustainable results. And what's that, you ask? Picture a grey rock, unremarkable, forgettable, and similar to countless others scattered nearby. Even the most enthusiastic collector probably wouldn't have a lot to say about this rock. So, if you want to escape notice, becoming a grey rock might seem like a good way to go about it. Of course, people can't actually turn into rocks, but that's where the idea of grey rocking comes from. This strategy involves becoming the most boring and uninteresting person you can be when interacting with a manipulative person. Ideally, over time, they realize they won't get a reaction out of you, and they stop whatever offensive behavior they were doing. Good explanation? Not really feasible for family though, as it enables crappy behavior, and taking it until they stop isn't what I would suggest. Actually, it can be really effective with family, as usually they engage in bad behavior to get some sort of reaction from their victims. It's not taking it until they stop, it's more just not sharing with them any real info about your life to use against you, and not reacting to things they say to get a rise out of you. I've used grey rocking fairly often, and it's been pretty successful for me. Not the a-hole. Kids aren't for everyone, and I hate the culture of pushing people to have them. People don't realize that if those child-free people are forced to have children they don't want, terrible things happen. I'm not saying in every instance, but it does happen. Abuse, neglect, maybe not criminal neglect, but there is definitely the feeling of being unwanted. Imagine being the child who was born to people who never wanted kids. That's a tough life. Most people choose to have children, and it seems like mother-in-law has plenty of grandkids already. Are they not good enough for her? Yes, but apparently she deserves grandbabies from everyone with a uterus even slightly involved in her family. After all, she's entitled to a full collector's set, right? But on a more serious note, I was born to people who never wanted kids. Thankfully, I was adopted by an amazing couple who did, but not all such stories turn out to be as happy as mine. Posted by user Falling Again, titled, "Am I the a-hole for coming out as a lesbian immediately after publicly separating from my husband? My ex and I didn't have a great relationship, and I was also questioning my sexuality for about a year before I decided to end it for other reasons. Edits, he was petty, childish, inconsiderate of my feelings, and decided if he had a bad day, I had to have a bad day too. Shortly after we told our families and friends, we were calling it quits. I also came to the conclusion that I'm a lesbian, and I publicly came out for the end of Pride Month. My ex is really upset about this and thinks I should have waited a while, because now people will think he turned me into a lesbian. Apparently his friends have been making fun of him for it. Am I the a-hole? I don't follow the logic of how you can be an a-hole for coming out as lesbian, or being turned into lesbian for someone. Where does the blame lie on someone? Do people not understand things in this universe? Like, exactly how can you be an a-hole for turning someone into a lesbian, even if that was true? That doesn't make any sense. And because of that stupid flaw in logic, Opie is not the a-hole to me. It doesn't make any sense. Not the a-hole. You get to decide when you come out, and turning someone into a lesbian is ridiculous. That said, while it's nobody's business, people do talk. Coming out immediately post-divorce is going to cause a lot of assumptions about your marriage and why it ended. This is what I came here to say, but I'd go with no a-holes here instead. Your ex's friends are giving him a hard time, and he's hurt right now, so it makes it worse. It sounds like his friends are the a-holes, not OP, and maybe not the ex. I don't know, I'm on the fence about him still trying to control his ex's behavior when they've formally severed ties. Maybe her ex should rethink his alleged friendships with toxic people who make fun of someone who is still emotionally raw from a divorce. I think he's just hurt because of the breakup, and his friends are fudging with him because that's what a lot of guys do, whether you agree with it or not. I don't think it's out of line to convey what he's feeling. Dude is just in a bad place right now. And as stated, the timing she used makes people make assumptions. It may not be right, but that's just how it is. Opie doesn't deserve to be blamed for something a lot of guys do. The ex should convey what he's feeling to the people making him feel that way, not the person who didn't do anything except come out. That is why the dude above him said no a-holes here. No, the person you're replying to is saying not the a-hole because the ex is taking it out on the person coming out instead of the people being dicks to him. Not the a-hole. And if men could turn women into lesbians, there would be way more lesbians in the world. And the other way round. With that logic, all those middle-aged men in the trope of, oh, my ball and chain wife is such a nag, she actually wants me to talk to her but she's so dense, ah ha ha, book good, iPhone bad, would also be gay. I would definitely be gay, not because I don't like girls. It would just be awesome if me and my buddies could... Yeah, it would. Gay dude here. It does have that upside sometimes. It's way easier to have friends with benefits. But also, corresponding downside, sometimes the idiots think you're hitting on them when you're just being a friend. Alternatively, you can still screw dudes if you're straight. Kind of the reverse of what OP did. No a-holes here. You are of course free to live your life however. I struggled on no a-holes here because your ex could be somewhat of an idiot here based on the turned you into a lesbian crap. However, a divorce is a traumatic time, and he may feel some kind of way about having been with someone who wasn't sexually interested in him and taking flack from homophobic a-holes. You don't owe him a talk over a cup of coffee, but it couldn't hurt. He needs some direction, for example, to be told his friends are fudging idiots and not very good friends. Posted by user ThrowRA Uterus897, titled, Am I the a-hole for having uterus art on my wall? So I, female 34, was really good friends with a woman a long time ago. Female 22, she died of cancer that age. She and I were soulmates, and she would embroider and sell it to people. Since we were basically sisters, she made some for me free. She made 3, which I kept to honor her memory. A flower, an Elvis one, and one of a uterus. The uterus one is bigger than the other 2, so I hang it by my bed. Recently, a male to female 31 high school friend of mine got kicked out by her boyfriend. I was okay with her staying until the storm was over. It went fine first. She cleaned up after herself, cooked for herself, didn't demand too much, etc. But some drama happened recently. We were in my room and talking about stuff. She noticed the bigger uterus one and said it gave her dysphoria and wanted me to take it down. I asked why, and she said because she feels less like a woman and because she doesn't have one. I said I feel bad for her, but I'm a woman with a uterus who feels proud of it and it's my room. She got mad at me and went out of the room. Am I the a-hole? I'd have to say no in this situation. And I can see where they're coming from with the body dysphoria, but that doesn't mean people have to take down things when you request it. People have the right to say no to requests like that, and this uterus was very symbolic and was gifted to her by a friend who's died. I would be pretty offended if people asked me to take down something that my dead friend had given me. Like, those kinds of items hold so much meaning to a person and memories. If someone asks you, hey, the memory on your wall there offends me, can you please take it down? I'd have to politely say no, I'm sorry, it holds too much value to me, I understand where you're coming from, but I just can't do it, unfortunately. She had every right to get mad and storm out of the room, that's fine, but OP shouldn't be guilted to take it down, so in that case, not the a-hole. Your house, your room, your art, your uterus, please don't feel bad, not the a-hole. Your art from a dear friend that passed away due to cancer. I would argue that your additional information is irrelevant, as this would be unacceptable behavior from the friend regardless. I would argue that it's not irrelevant. I'd say it adds even more reason not to take it down. Not the a-hole. Presumably your friend is going to have a go at anyone who's pregnant next, since she can't have a baby. Or maybe you could take her on a hospital visit to see patients with cervical cancer. That'll make her feel better. Right? The friend needs to start learning to accept themselves instead of controlling their environment. They're setting themselves up for failure because they'll never control everything external that can trigger them. She should know about cis women without uteruses, and that doesn't determine that they're not women. They are still very much women. I'm a cis woman, and I would yeet my uterus so far out of my body if I could. Estimates show about 10 to 15% of women by age 40 have no children. Half from not wanting them, half from not being able to have them. Babies do not define your womanhood. Friend needs to realize that everyone else's life is not all about their transition. They don't get to dictate the actions of others in order to validate themselves. Friend is free to find somewhere else to stay if they're uncomfortable about something that the OP is displaying in their private home. Yeah, I unfortunately had to stop hanging out with a trans friend because she just became so incredibly toxic to be around. She made everything about her transition and started telling me that I'm probably trans because I only wear jeans and hoodies. I'm a lesbian that dresses more like a dude. I'm not trans. I'm a completely straight woman who only wears boots, jeans, and t-shirts. Does that make me trans? Some of them would say yes. I've had some argue with me and tell me I must be trans because I'm tall. The logic there seems to be, I'm trans because I say so, and you're trans because I say so. It's maddeningly confusing. Posted by user Twisted Raccoon. Titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my aunt alone at the pool with her 3 kids? I honestly don't think I'm the a-hole here, but apparently I'm a horrible person. Sounds like a just no mother-in-law or an entitled person ahead. So, I, female 18, have an aunt who has 3 kids. Male 2, female 4, and female 12. I don't see them very often or spend much time around them, but my family is doing a small 4th of July thing today, so we're all together at a local pool. Social distancing, masks unless in the water, etc. We're staying at my grandfather's house for a few days, and it's about a 30-minute drive from the pool. This morning when we came up, my grandfather and uncle, kid's father, went to play golf while my aunt took the kids to the pool. I drove myself to the pool in a different car, as the aunt and kids usually swim for 6+ hours straight, and I didn't want to stay at the pool for that long. I made it known before we left that I was taking my separate car. I swam with the kids for about 4 hours, but then decided that I was ready to head back to the house. I got up and left my aunt, and she freaked out. She'd told me that I was being impolite and rude by leaving, and that since she'd bought me lunch, I had to stay. She didn't buy it, it was put on my grandfather's account. She said that I was going to make the kids upset and that she didn't want to have to take care of them alone. I told her that I was sorry, but I had stuff that I wanted to do back at the house. She started yelling in the middle of this public pool about how I was ungrateful for not helping and for leaving the kids, how I don't deserve to be up at the house, how I'm being a horrible family member, and of course, now the young kids are crying because mummy is yelling at their cousin, and they don't know why. So I just turned around and left. My uncle and my grandfather were already at the house when I got back. My grandfather thinks I'm in the right. They're her kids, not yours. If she can't be alone with them, there's a problem. But my uncle and grandmother are extremely upset that I left her at the pool alone to deal with them. 2/3 of the kids are fantastic swimmers. The youngest is the only one that needs help and has to be watched a bunch. I honestly don't think I'm in the wrong, but my aunt isn't speaking to me. My uncle keeps making rude remarks, and my grandmother is passively aggressively saying things to the small children like, "Oh, I know, I'll take care of you. Opie isn't very nice, is she?" Am I the a-hole here? No, that woman can look after her own kids. It's okay to ask for extra help, and get that extra help for sure, but demanding that she stay there for 6+ hours straight is just inconsiderate. You shouldn't blow up at her when she wants to go spend her own time. She enjoyed some hours looking after the kids and hanging out with you guys, but it's so rude to just blow up at her and say that she's a piece of crap for leaving. They're your kids. You look after them. You signed up for it. She didn't. What's wrong with you and the family for enabling it? No, that's the wrong attitude to have. There seriously needs to be a sit down and be like, yo, let's figure this out. You guys are crazy, and here's why, and let's be normal here, shall we? Opie is not the a-hole. If she can't handle 3 kids, she shouldn't have had 3 kids, and they're her responsibility. Plus, there are lifeguards. It's not like you have to watch them like a hawk. If you can't keep a general eye on your kids and collect them when it's time to go, you definitely have an issue. Lifeguards are 16-year-olds with minimal training. Source, I was one. Parents are expected to look after their kids. A lifeguard saving your kid is a last resort. This is a dangerous attitude to have. Really? We have trained ones over 25 here. So, I'm a lifeguard. The problem with the parents not being around isn't that the kid can drown. I can jump in for your kid. The problem is that if some rando takes your kid's hand and leaves with them, I don't know if that's their uncle, aunt, or grandparent. Additionally, if your kid falls and cracks their head open and a parent isn't around, I'm not looking for a parent. I'm straight up calling the cops and first aiding the kid. You need to be within arm's reach of your child. Additionally, if your kid goes under, you can pull them out much faster if you're right there. Okay, then the aunt should have taken them home instead of press ganging their cousin into free childcare. 4 hours is more than enough pull time, they'll live. This, or the uncle could have gone to help his wife with his own children instead of being such a chicken butt about the whole thing. Everyone mad at OP sucks for blaming her instead of asking the father to do his damn job. Edit, and the more I think about the manipulative grandmother using the kids to get her digs in, the angrier I'm getting. I don't often use the word trashy, but that's just trashy to me. Not the a-hole. You have to babysit her kids so her husband can golf? Nah. This. The next time uncle tries to say anything, remind him he made the kids with aunt. Not you, not the a-hole. I was trying to figure out, was that the kid's father? Why was he home and not heading to the pool to spend time with his family? P.S. I have 3 kids and have taken them to the pool a lot on my own. Fun if someone else is there, but I would never expect someone to have to help me. Posted by user Anonymous18365. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my parents to be a part of my daughter's life? When I was 18, my parents kicked me out of the house after I got my girlfriend pregnant. To them, it was shameful and they completely cut me out of their lives and my family's money. My girlfriend and I managed on our own after my son was born, but it was a struggle for years. We were living paycheck to paycheck and constantly stressed about money. My girlfriend's parents helped out when they could and were the best grandparents to our son. By some miracle, we managed to graduate from college, even with work and raising a child. Now we're both 32, been married 6 years, living in our own home with our 13-year-old son and our 4-month-old daughter. I haven't seen or spoken to anyone in my family except my cousins in years. 2 weeks ago, my mum sent me a friend request on Facebook and also messaged me. She sent this long message about how she's wanted to talk for a while now, and she apologized for the way they treated me. She and my dad were hoping we can make amends because they really want to meet my new daughter and get the chance to be grandparents. She didn't mention my son at all, ask how old he is, how he's doing, or express any interest whatsoever in also wanting to see him, not just my daughter. I messaged her back and vented about all the hardship and obstacles my girlfriend and I had to deal with to get where we are, and how hard it was that I didn't have my parents' emotional support through what was the most difficult time of my life. Sure, their money would have made things a hell of a lot easier, but I get that money shouldn't have been handed to us. But I feel the least they could have done was be there for me instead of erasing me from their lives. I said they don't get to walk back into our lives, and I don't want to hear from her again. I blocked her after that. A few days ago, one of my cousins mentioned my parents and said they're telling everyone I'm refusing to let them meet their granddaughter. My cousin knows about everything, but he thought it was still petty to be that way when they clearly regret what they did and want to be in my life now, and I can't allow a grudge to prevent them from being grandparents. My wife and I talked this over, and she feels the same way I do, but will support it if I want them around. It really feels like they only care now because we're older and the hard part is over. And honestly, my parents have always been extremely judgmental over everything. They're also very snobby, and I'm not 100% sure if that's what I want my kids growing up with. My cousin keeps saying I'm in the wrong here, and it's hurting my parents that they'll miss out on my daughter's first year of life by not being around. I'm just a little lost, and I don't know if I really am being the bad guy or not. Am I the a-hole? No, your parents suck, they deserve to be ignored, that's disgusting behavior on their part and I don't condone it. They want their cake and they want to eat it too without any of the repercussions of said cake. Screw them, keep ignoring them, they don't deserve any part in your family. I stand by that. Opie is not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. They made their feelings known 13 years ago. It's a total a-hole move to ask about one child and ignore the other. If you are so inclined, consider meeting with your parents in a public place, sans kids. If they're serious about reconnecting and making amends, they can just start with you and your wife. If that goes well, over time, consider allowing them limited access to kids. Make it perfectly clear that it's a package deal. Either they treat both kids the same or they see neither child. You're probably better off without them in your life. Correct answer right there. They have to demonstrate their worth as parents before they earn the privilege of being grandparents. This, grandparenting, is not a right, it is earned. And they made their decision on whether or not to be grandparents 13 years ago. The part that bothers me, how the cousins side with his parents. Somehow, people are just absolved of their sins because they're old and need help. I do not wish for anyone to suffer, but your choices reflect on you, and you should always be ready to face consequences later. And now that they want to reconnect, they throw OP under the bus for their entire family because OP wasn't jumping for joy at the first sign of attention? Really? One apology, in words, not actions, and it's all supposed to be fine, and OP is somehow unreasonable. And then after their first crappy try fails, they immediately try to guilt trip OP into submission. They're not sorry at all. They're embarrassed they don't have the perfect postcard family. By bad-mouthing OP to the rest of the family, they have shown their true colors, in my honest opinion. Not the a-hole. Why now? Why only your daughter? I get that people can grow, but in that growth, are they planning to pretend your son is still a shameful secret? Family is more than blood. They are the people who stand by you, with you, and behind you in good and bad times. The fact that your mum immediately went with "woe is me, I'm the victim, they won't let me, etc., etc. to everyone, says a lot to me. She isn't even planning to put in some work to try and heal the rift that she allowed to grow. In case it's unclear, I support your decision 100%. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's children that they're not mine and to back off? Now, I got with my ex when I was 21 and he was 32. It was unhealthy, but I had problems going on at the time. He had 2 children who at the time were 2 and 5 months, Amy and Nina. Biological mother wasn't involved with the children, and I was never told why. I raised the children as my own for ages. I did everything for them until they were 12 and almost 11 before I separated from my ex. I initially considered trying to remain in their lives, but it was difficult, and I wanted nothing to do with him. It's been 14 years since. I have a family. My youngest is 5 now, and my stepchildren have children. I have to be honest, I loved my ex's children, but I don't regret what I had to do. I guess my ex never told his children that I wasn't the woman who gave birth to them, because not too long ago, Amy reached out to me to tell me that I owed them, and she resented me for leaving them with their bat-crap dad, and that they wanted to meet up. I met up and explained to Amy and Nina that I was only the stepmother, and they didn't believe me, at all, which led to some tears, and both of them reaching out to my stepchildren to tell them that they're siblings. Amy posted on my Facebook wall, messaged my husband, posted pictures of my youngest, 5, saying that how they want to meet their sibling. It got crazy. Look, I tried to sympathize, but they're adults now. I messaged them saying I wanted nothing to do with both of them, and that they need to back off, especially as I'm not their birth mother. My husband thinks I'm a little harsh because they clearly idolized me. They still haven't stopped calling me. Am I the a-hole? This is a hard one to judge. I don't really want to touch the topic all too much because there's a lot more going on here, and there's a lot of denial going on many sides, and a lot of covering up the facts by the father as well, it looks like. I'm just gonna leave it at everyone sucks here. Some suck more than others. This is a really sticky situation, and I personally would not want to be in the middle of this. Everyone sucks here. Wow, what a horrible situation. Those poor young ladies. How could it have gotten to this that they don't even know who their birth mother is? Totally screwed up. You're not their biological mother, so you don't owe them anything. However, you did help to create this situation. You both clearly were never open with them about what had gone on before. Honestly, you can walk away from this, but I hope you will find it in you to be a better human and try to help them to understand what is and has gone on. Your ex must be bat-winged crazy, alright? This isn't okay. DNA and the knowledge you aren't their mother doesn't change the fact that you're their mum. In their hearts and identity, you're the one who was mum forever. Abandoning these girls just because they're adults and not biologically yours is cold. That's not why. It's because of their totally out-of-line reaction upon learning this. First of all, She doesn't owe them anything. Second of all, she conceded to their demands of meeting, and instead of talking it out, they claimed they were OP's kids and quite literally accused her of lying. Maybe there could be a relationship if they had bothered listening, but they didn't. Because she's their mum, she did lie their entire lives. You're defending that at no point in over 18 years she couldn't clarify she's their mum, but not their mother, and then expect them not to be attached and bonded in that way. That's just mean. That wasn't her job. They had agreed to tell them. They had agreed he would tell them. She had no way to contact them outside of him because she had no legal right to them. She was their mother, yes. Then she told them that she didn't give birth to them, and they accused her of lying because of his failure as a parent. They crossed all the lines, and then, after they crossed every conceivable line and harassed her and her family, she told them not to contact her. If they were that sure, they could have asked for a DNA test. They didn't. And guess what? OP never owed them anything. Even if she gave birth to them, they're over 18. The things she would have owed them had that been the case ended at 18. OP didn't cross the lines. They did. And after all the boundary stomping, including contacting her husband and posting pictures of her child on the internet, she broke contact, which is fair. As someone with a multi-blended family who places strong value on relationships, not DNA, I respectfully agree to disagree. OP was taken advantage of from the start. She was basically preyed upon by a much older man who wanted a mummy for his 2 babies. She was 21. I'll bet she ran a whole household for 4 people for a decade. Leaving was her only way out of what was essentially mummy slavery. Oh, this is hard. Everyone sucks here. So you cut off contact with them just because you didn't want anything to do with your ex anymore? They didn't do anything, and it's completely understandable why they were so hurt and confused. That being said though, I don't think it was right of them to say that you owed them, and the harassment that came afterwards was out of line. From their perspective, the OP does owe them. She and her ex lied by omission, or outright lied and made these girls believe she was the bio mum. From the outside looking in, this looks just like the stories of a-hole parents who walk out on their kids and lie and try to pretend they don't exist. She owes them proof she isn't their bio mum because they won't heal otherwise, and she is just as responsible for the situation as her ex. Posted by user ThrowRA I'm 68, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend not to spit in our food?" We're currently not speaking because of this issue, since I find it gross and my boyfriend can't see my problem with it. I do most of the cooking in our relationship, which I'm fine with. However, occasionally my boyfriend will want to do some cooking together or do some baking. We do a lot of activities together, especially now we're both home a lot more. The one thing I cannot stand is a habit he has when it comes to food. If my boyfriend thinks something is too dry or needs a better consistency, he will use his own spit and put it into the food. For example, the other day we were icing homemade cookies, and I caught him thinning out the icing mixture by spitting inside the bowl and mixing it in. This has been an issue for some time, so he tries to hide it whenever he does it from me. But every time I catch him, I just find it gross. His reply is to shrug and just tell me that I get more of his saliva in my mouth when we kiss anyway, so it shouldn't be a big deal and makes literally no difference. I've pleaded with him to use water, but he says that the texture just isn't the same, and has pointed out that if I can't tell the texture is different, surely it doesn't matter that it's not water anyway. I know that in a way he's right, and it's not like I complain about his spit when we make out, but something about it being mixed with food just grosses me out. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my boyfriend to spit in our food when we cook together? Edit. My boyfriend doesn't cook regularly, so he isn't serving this to anyone but me and himself. He has made disgusting comments about serving staff spitting in customers' food before, so I know he finds other people's spit unhygienic. Yeah, I want to crawl out of my skin reading this story, I'm not gonna lie. That's really disgusting from the boyfriend. You know, water doesn't have enzymes that break down the food, bacteria, everything else in it that could go wrong in the food. And just from a cultural standpoint, we don't have a culture of spitting in people's food and then being cool with eating it, much like his example he's pointed out there. Opie, you're not the a-hole for not wanting your boyfriend to spit in your food when you cook together. That's just disgusting on his part, and he really, really needs to stop doing that. I mean, I don't think not the a-hole is an adequate way to express the absolute horror I am feeling on your behalf right now. I wish I could upload a selfie so you could see the degree of not the a-holeness I feel written all over my face. Your boyfriend is disgusting. The fudging horror, right? You're correct, not the a-hole doesn't adequately express it. I actually screamed out loud, and my incredibly into cooking boyfriend came running in and went visibly white when I told him what I had been reading. I threw up in my mouth. Please never let him serve anyone else food he makes. Or for the love of God, tell him first. Please tell them. Not the a-hole. So gross. Full disclosure, I didn't make it past spit in the frosting. I don't even understand at what point in life did he start doing this. Did he just one day wake up and think, oh hey, you know what, saliva's a good substitute for water? Not only is he the a-hole, he's also pretty stupid. He should stop drinking water and just survive on swallowing saliva. Should make beverages without using water. He should shower and wash with it as well, since he thinks it's an adequate substitute. What a tool. And I don't get OP either. How is any reasonable human okay with this? Posted by user Comprehensive Ad 2519, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to adopt my daughter's bio kid because it would sacrifice my new lifestyle? Throwaway and title sounds bad. This was last year. I have a 25-year-old adult daughter who got pregnant and decided to keep the child. I told her to get an abortion. I am my daughter's father. On Christmas last year, my daughter called me and told her I have to adopt her child as she can't take care of it because of college. I told her no, I don't want to adopt a child and have another 18 years of my life wasted. My daughter became angry at me for not caring about my grandchildren. I told her I won't sacrifice my lifestyle because of her mistake. I then told her she can deal with the consequences of having the child herself. My daughter told me she won't talk to me unless I adopt her kid. It's been over a year now, and my daughter has not talked to me. So now I'm wondering if I'm an a-hole. So am I the a-hole for refusing to adopt my daughter's biological kid because it would sacrifice my new lifestyle? A lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions on this one, that's for sure, because everyone's family dynamics and way they're going to look after their kids is completely different. So are their living scenarios and their ability to do this? Personally, I'm of the thought that I don't blame him for turning that down. He shouldn't be held at gunpoint to adopt his daughter's kid, just because she can't look after it because she's still got the rest of university to do. That's kind of disgusting on her half to do that. I mean, you should be able to look after yourself and the kid while still studying. A lot of people do it and continue to do it, and just because there's a possibility you can hand it off to your parent doesn't mean they should take the child. On the other hand, solely because it's going to sacrifice his new lifestyle, that's a kind of a dickhead thing to say, because a kid to me is worth more than a lifestyle, but I can understand him not wanting to raise another kid, and not everyone wants to go through that again. So for that reason, I'm just gonna say everyone sucks here. It's a given. Everyone sucks here. Your daughter is the primary a-hole, but referring to the child as another 18 years wasted and a mistake is probably one of the worst things you could say to your own child. Sounds toxic. To be honest, you're a downright terrible person if you give birth to a kid you refuse to abort or to raise, and then try to force someone else to raise them while using your relationship as leverage. I completely agree, but I do get a lot more sympathetic to her when the father casually implies that she is a mistake and a waste. I mean, a lot of her crappy behavior could have been caused by being raised like that. The only person I feel truly sorry for is the baby. Perhaps I'm just a bit more sympathetic to the father, even though he could have used better words because her upbringing doesn't excuse the daughter's actions and intentionally giving birth to a kid that they won't take responsibility for. That's being negligent for a whole person. I don't excuse the daughter, but I'm not sympathetic to the father at all. Any parent that implies the child is a waste of time is a huge a-hole in my opinion. Not the a-hole for not adopting the child. However, you are an a-hole for telling an adult woman to terminate her pregnancy. You're an a-hole for implying that the 18 years it took to raise your daughter were wasted. I mean, in hindsight, it seems like the smart recommendation since the adult woman is now trying to get rid of her child. Harsh, but I'll allow it. OP says, I told her to get an abortion because I know she won't be able to handle the kid. I also know that putting the kid up for adoption is a painful process. I did not want my daughter to suffer or have those feelings, which is the reason why I told my daughter to get an abortion. But you did also tell her that you don't want to waste another 18 years of your life, implying that raising her was a waste of 18 years too. A-hole comment on your part. Everyone sucks here because you aren't blameless. Posted by user X-Rappy-Schmieler, titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my boyfriend's sister my clothes and accessories? So, I'm a huge fashion freak, and therefore have crap loads of clothing and various accessories. My family always inclined towards slow fashion, so even now I try to buy either garments, which I'm sure will last me for a couple of years, or thrifted ones. I also learned to sew so I could make customized clothes or fix up those that weren't exactly my cuppa. My boyfriend's sister has some upcoming business-related events and wanted to borrow some of my clothes as her styles don't exactly fall in a business category. I thought she would like some less expensive ones, but she automatically and quite nonchalantly ventured to grab some of my favorite and most expensive pieces. I told her I'd not lend her those as she didn't know how to care about silk or cashmere, and I wouldn't let her have my great-grandfather watches. Instead, I offered her some less care-demanding and not so valuable alternatives, but she refused them. She complained to my boyfriend, who is on her side, and keeps telling her I'm a snob and should allow her to try my clothes as we're all basically a family. It's been 2 weeks since that, and they still continue to nag me. At one point I asked her whether she would pay me if she somehow destroyed my clothes, and she said it was ridiculous, and in conclusion is even more angry. No, I don't think you're an a-hole for that. I think that she's careless from your description of it, and I wouldn't want cashmere destroyed like that, or expensive silks. Just because she's family doesn't mean you have to trust her with your prized possessions, and she should be honored to even be given the option of some of your clothes in the first place. Not everyone's willing to do that, and she sounds very entitled for doing so. So because of that, not the a-hole. You do not have to lend out expensive items if you aren't comfortable doing so. Accidents happen, and if the items aren't replaceable, that would make it uncomfortable. You also offered other items to her and she didn't want them. She may be a bit of a snob herself. Exactly. I had a roommate who called me materialistic because I cared about my stuff, which she liked to borrow and only sometimes asked permission beforehand. My first ever cashmere sweater disappeared within 2 weeks of getting it. Yes, that was a very big deal to me, and I found it waddled in a bowl directly under her bird's cage, covered in seeds, shells, feathers, and all manner of bird stuff. It was also snagged. When I complained, she shrugged it off and told me the real problem was that I was too invested in consumer culture. Truth, so was she. She just didn't want to have to pay for it or be held responsible for her own actions. Harsher truth, this wasn't about the sweater, it was about basic respect. Her opinion on the value of my clothes or the morality of my attachment to them wasn't relevant. Her complete lack of respect in taking my things and treating them like trash showed that she didn't care about how her actions made me feel. Harshest truth? You can't control how people think about you, but you can make decisions about your own self-worth. If my roommate wanted to think that I was materialistic because I didn't want my one luxury item ruined, there was nothing I could do about it. But I could inform her that all of my stuff was now off limits and that any further borrowing would not be tolerated. Setting boundaries not only preserved my clothing, it made me feel better because I was standing up for myself. OP needs to refuse any loans to her boyfriend's sister because of her outsized sense of entitlement and lack of a sense of responsibility. Not to mention the ongoing harassment when OP set perfectly reasonable boundaries. OP may want to evaluate the way the boyfriend treats her overall if he's engaging in trying to bully and shame her for making a thoughtful and appropriate offer of help to his sister. If this is a one-off thing, then having a talk about how his comments and demands made OP feel when she was offering to help in the only way that wasn't likely to cause her personal loss. If boyfriend understands that he needs to respect OP's priorities, even when he doesn't necessarily share them, and that teaming up with others to make her feel bad is damaging to the trust in their relationship, then maybe things will be fine. I'm just not sure that boyfriend has it in him based on OP's story. Not the a-hole. Pay attention here. Your boyfriend is clearly showing you where he's going to come down anytime you have a conflict with his family. Proceed with caution, OP. This is setting an example of things to come. They're trying to force you into something that you're obviously uncomfortable with, trying to guilt you with the family is everything card. Parroting above, proceed with caution. Not the a-hole. Boyfriend has given you the tour of the factory where the red flags are made. I understand you not wanting to lend expensive clothes. To your boyfriend, he probably just thinks they're clothes. I know they're important to you. Boyfriend has taken his sister's side instead of seeing you have offered an alternative. Her reply when you asked if she would pay for any damage caused is another red flag. You deserve better. Edit, what would be the next situation that boyfriend takes his family's side over yours, OP? Posted by user Snoo67735, titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my teenage nephew after his dad died and mum, my sister, got hospitalized? Throwaway for obvious reasons, hope you can all understand. So, we live in a country right now that is not open to travel of any kind of any foreign country, I'm gonna guess Australia. So this is all happening to us without any support from our relatives abroad. Anyways, a very tragic thing happened to my sister's family this past year. Her husband passed away from a sudden ruptured brain aneurysm in January, and now she has contracted the coronavirus in late June. She's a nurse. Up until now, she's been looking after her son single-handedly. He's 13, so has been very capable of looking after himself, but is still a minor. About 2 weeks ago, my sister reported feeling worse, and confirmed she had the virus. Things really degenerated over the past week, and she's now in the hospital and placed in an induced coma, and her health keeps getting worse. As a result, her son has no legal guardian, and it's up to me and my wife if we could take him in. The issue is this. My wife absolutely despises my nephew. Around 5 years ago, he stayed with us for a weekend, and he broke my wife's cat's tail by pulling her around. This was an elderly cat that later had to be put down due to ongoing injuries. My wife, as a result, has cut off my sister, her husband, and my nephew completely, although I still have contact with them. So now I have raised the responsibility of taking in my nephew until my sister gets better, but my wife is 100% against it, even saying that if I do, then that's the end of our marriage. I have raised other options, like I move in with him, but my wife suffers from anxiety and mentioned that if I left her now, I would be putting her in a vulnerable state where she could fall into depression. She suffers from depression during stressful times. Yeah, I'm sure he does too, mate. I've made the choice to put my wife first and let my nephew be taken in by state social workers for the time being. The issue is our family abroad has heard of the situation and deemed us heartless for letting my nephew go into state institutions, which are very poor quality in our country. I feel very guilty, but I also feel like I made the right choice, prioritizing my wife, whose health comes first for me. Am I the a-hole for making this choice? Edit, thanks for everyone's responses so far. I'll try my best to clarify a few things more. Is my wife sick? She has always struggled with mental health, which is why I was leaning towards protecting her. She has diagnosed borderline personality disorder and a long history with depression and anxiety. She does not get along with most of my family, which is why we live so far away from everyone else, except for my sister, of course. It is not her fault, but she does get a lot of anxiety when I'm gone, or with the rest of my family for a very long time. It is partly due to fights and bad blood in the past, but also because she's in a vulnerable state right now after having just lost her job a few weeks ago. I am worried about her ability to take care of herself if I were to suddenly pack up and stay with my nephew. How did the cat break its tail? Her cat was pretty old when it happened, around 13 to 14 years old. Nephew asked to trim the cat's nails after seeing my wife do it. Well, the cat was fine until she suddenly tried to run off. My nephew tried to pull her back like my wife showed him, but applied too much force and the wrong angle, grabbed tail instead of body, and her tail was broken. I was there, but it happened too quickly for me to do anything. The cat was put down about 2 months later because it stopped eating. Vet says ongoing pain from the tail was a leading cause. Wife blames nephew, but in my view, it was a pretty neutral situation. However, the cat's death was very, very difficult for her, and trauma lasts to this day. Is there other family/friends to help? Unfortunately not. Due to the pandemic, no one is able to fly in, and because of legal reasons, my sister's friends are not able to take him in even temporarily. The social workers said he would be placed with a nearby foster family just until my sister gets better. In that case, I could visit him often, but would not be able to stay with him overnight. This one I've had to record a few times because I get really angry talking about this one. Both OP and his wife make me really, really angry with refusing to look after this kid. They both suck, and I think there's a special place in hell for them not looking after this 13-year-old, who, through no fault of his own, has lost both of his parents, and no one else can look after him. Being put into the foster system is a really, really bad choice to make. If I was in this situation, I would tell the wife to suck it up, we need to look after this kid, you need to go get help, and sort out your issues. I'm sorry. I'm not letting my sister's kid go into the foster system, and I know it's hard on you. He was 8 years old. He was 8 years old and it was a neutral situation. I can't blame him for that. So OP sucks for not being harder on it. The wife just sucks all around to me. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is the a-hole. There's a child out there, basically by himself, with the potential to lose both of his parents within a year of each other, and she is 100% not allowing you to help him, and is telling you if you do, your marriage will be over. That's insane to me. Edit, you're the a-hole too for being okay with any of this, and it's pathetic your wife needs to use you as a crutch for her anxiety and depression. Reasonable she wouldn't want to take in a kid, especially one that seemingly was responsible for her cat's demise. Completely unreasonable that she would guilt her husband after he offered a totally reasonable compromise to abandoning a child. She's definitely the bigger a-hole, but he's complicit. Reading the edit OP made, seemingly the 8-year-old boy grabbed the cat as he was instructed by the wife, but applied too much pressure. At 8. On his first try, with a cat that is running away. The cat died 2 months later from not eating due to pain in general, with the tail being the leading cause. I'm sorry, but this is no way the boy's fault. He asked to be included, she said yes. He made a slight error. She could have easily said no when the boy asked to help, or any other myriad of options. This is seemingly the reason the wife cut all contact with the family and why she wants this boy to go into foster care. The wife is a massive a-hole, OP being less of an a-hole, but still one for seemingly letting everyone walk all over him. My assumption here is that the wife is one of those people who just makes it difficult for everyone and the whole world is against her. I hope she stays in good health because it looks like OP's family is going to drop her like a brick if she ever needs help. Don't forget, it was after this accident that the wife decided OP shouldn't have any contact with his sister or their family. Oh, and she has terrible anxiety, but still taught an 8-year-old how to trim her elderly cat's nails, including how to grab the cat when it runs away. Yeah, and she can't be without her husband except if she chooses his nephew, in which case she'll divorce him. Her anxiety sure is finicky. Info. So you can't move in with a nephew because she can't survive without you, but if you move him in, she will divorce you, move out, and survive without you? Smacks of manipulation and codependency, doesn't it? Borderline personality disorder ruins lives. It is 100% manipulation, lies, and drama. Please try to remember BPD is a spectrum. Some of us are awful, but some of us aren't manipulative, abusive liars. Everyone has the capacity to be awful, but demonizing an entire group of people because of the actions of an awful few is not okay. Before the BPDers or all abusers descend on me, I know people with BPD who are awful, and people with BPD who are not awful, and I know that it's an individual choice a person makes to be awful or to get help and be better. Please stop stigmatizing all of us. My best friend has BPD, and he is the kindest, most empathetic person I know. He just struggles with boundaries and consequences. Something he works on in therapy and in everyday life and gets better at all the time. I met him before he was diagnosed too. You're the a-hole, and your wife also sucks. He was 8 when that happened. He could very well be a full orphan soon, and instead of taking him in, even on a temporary basis, you're casting him off because he hurt an animal when he was 8. I'm not saying animals don't matter, but a human life is potentially about to be dramatically altered forever, and you don't want to take in your nephew because your wife has a grudge with a child? Are you kidding? Both you and your wife are the a-hole because of this grudge you're holding over a very vulnerable young teenager. Maybe he can take care of himself, but can he really? It's not just about having an adult around for supervision. This kid needs somewhere safe to stay with people he is familiar with. Although I think you should take him in, unfortunately I feel like it'll be a crappy experience for him, knowing neither you nor your wife want to care for him. I keep thinking about the poor kid having to go to a house where he knows he isn't wanted when dealing with all this. It's heartbreaking. He's only 13, and he's lost his father, and his mother is in a serious condition, all over the past 6 months. On top of all of that, he's being sent away because his uncle and aunt hate him for an accident when he was a little kid? He's old enough to understand what's going on. My heart breaks for him. Call me heartless if you want, but if it was me in this situation, I would take the kid in a heartbeat and let the wife deal with the consequences. I feel like his health and well-being takes utmost importance in this situation, and that's just how I would do it. I know other people are different. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancée she can only buy a wedding dress if I get to spend the same amount? Now, my fiancée and I are getting married in October, and I couldn't be more excited. Currently, she's unemployed because her job permanently shut down due to the lockdown, so the income comes from me and her unemployment. I make good money, so I don't care if she gets another job. I can support us. Money is a little tight lately because we were very suddenly had to buy a new car. We haven't really spent any personal money, only money on groceries and necessities. Last night, my fiancée came into our bathroom while I was shaving and looked a little nervous. She asked if she could buy a $350 wedding dress that she'd been looking at for months. I kind of looked at her and asked where the $350 would come from. She said we had a lot of money in our savings we hadn't touched, and it would barely make a dent in our savings. I thought about it for a second and told her that if she gets to splurge $350 on a dress, I get to spend $350 on whatever I want. She said she didn't think it was a splurge. It was for our wedding, and I could buy what I wanted, but I could tell I had hurt her feelings. I told her spending $350 on a dress was a little ridiculous, and she started crying and walked out of the bathroom quietly. When I walked into our bedroom, she was under the covers and facing away from me. We haven't talked since. I don't feel like I'm being unreasonable, but am I the a-hole? Yes, I think judging by her reaction there, you can straight away tell that you're being an a-hole in this situation. Why would you say that to your fiancé? This is a wedding. You can afford to spend that much on a dress. I know that she's unemployed, but you keep making it seem like money isn't a big deal. Why are you blowing up at her over such an essential expense for a wedding? That's really heartless, OP. You're the a-hole. Edit. I never really looked at how much dresses are. They are really expensive, and that's a shock. We paid our whole wedding, and I knew that would be expensive, but since dresses are her thing and I'm not supposed to see them, I never looked. I love my fiancée, and I want her to feel beautiful. I feel like a total a-hole. I just assumed wedding dresses weren't that much unless they were like custom made or a celebrity dress. Edit number 2. The way we've always done things in our relationship is if I splurge on X amount of money, she gets to as well. We always have, even before she lost her job. So that was my mindset, which was not the mindset I should have had. Last edit, we've talked about it and I've apologized. We're good. I'm going to put this post to rest because I learned I'm the a-hole, but my fiancé wanted to read through it to laugh at me getting my ass virtually handed to me and also share the dress she was looking at. Thanks, Reddit. That is a very nice dress. Damn, I'm all for it. You're the a-hole. It seems like maybe you're delusional about the cost of weddings. That $350 price is absurdly low for a wedding dress, and most grooms would be jumping with excitement at how reasonable their bride is. It's even less than a lot of girls spend on prom dresses. If what you're looking for is complete equality, go spend $350 on a new suit for the wedding. Problem solved. If your stance is that wearing a wedding dress to your own wedding is frivolous, you have way more serious issues than just being an a-hole. Frankly, the fact that she felt like she had to nervously ask your permission to spend $350 on her wedding dress and then walks away quietly crying when you're an a-hole about it says a lot about the dynamics of your relationship. I was thinking the same. It wasn't even a discussion. It was like she was a child asking a parent. I think there are a lot of people in a similar boat right now, particularly if they were working and now aren't due to the lockdown. Every little expense that isn't strictly for survival gets thought through over and over again. And she's probably extra sensitive to the fact that he's working and she isn't. I had a spot where I was out of work and my then fiancé wasn't, and I was sensitive about the money too. It was very situational and not wholly indicative of the relationship though, and the fact that OP apologized and they talked it out is more suggestive of a good relationship than a big red flag one. Even the best people have their occasional idiot moments. Exactly. Everyone has their dull moments. We should not always insist on breaking a relationship. You're the a-hole. Wedding dresses aren't cheap, and women's clothes in general cost more than men's. But you just said you're happy being the sole breadwinner for the household. You should be discussing expensive purchases related to your wedding, sure, but dictating the terms like that is an a-hole move. Update: am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé she can only buy a wedding dress if I get to spend the same amount? I thought you people invested in our story would like an update because it's a doozy. We're supposed to get married October 3rd, but due to COVID spiking again, at least in our state, I'm scared we wouldn't be able to get married then and we'll be on lockdown again. So I asked her if she'd just be willing to go to the courthouse and get married. She said yes, but asked if we'd still have a wedding with all our friends and family when COVID was over. I told her no. If we went to the courthouse, it's silly for us to have a wedding, and I would get all my deposits back because they're all refundable except for our venue. She said she didn't think it was silly, and having her family there, specifically her grandmother who lives in Ireland, and was going to fly down for our wedding. I told her it was stupid for us to have a wedding if we're already married, and she took that as me calling her stupid, so we got in a huge fight, and it ended with her going to stay with her parents. That was a few days ago, and since then she's told me she doesn't want to marry someone who doesn't try to compromise to what we both want, and who thinks his word is law. So she dumped me. So I guess I'm not getting married. That's the update. Oh, that's not the update I thought this would be. My husband and I had a wedding after our legal ceremony. We know lots of people who have done the same thing. Also, have you heard of compromise? I truly hope this is a troll so there's not A, someone so emotionally brain dead walking around, and B, another poor woman who wasted who knows how much time with said emotional zombie. Otherwise, OP's replies and posts just creep me out. I'm pretty sure OP is 4 lizards in a human suit trying to fit in because the lack of understanding of human emotions is alarming. Having been on a few dates with dudes like this more than once, they exist. Often it takes an incident like this, someone they love walking away from the negotiating table, to realize that maybe they need to relearn what compromise means. I did this with my ex. He wasn't listening to me, or talking to me, or compromising on anything, and I walked out. We were engaged, going to get married in December, and part of me knew something would make me leave, if at least not have the wedding. I stopped being able to picture myself walking down the aisle, and I left. He is now trying to work on his issues. I'm working on mine. He wants me back, and I'm not considering it because it's been a month and he knows where I'm at, but my leaving made him have a reality check once he stopped blaming me for all our problems. Congratulations to your ex-fiance for having an ounce of sense. You're the a-hole still. Honestly, this update makes me so happy for your ex. She sounds like a reasonable and patient woman who deserves someone understanding, flexible, and not totally up his own a-hole when it comes to marriage. I'm glad she finally put her foot down and stopped compromising her feelings for you. You're the a-hole yet again, considering how many people I've anecdotally observed doing exactly what your former fiancé suggested. You should really reevaluate whether or not marriage and a wedding is something you actually want in your future, or if you just want to have someone subservient who you can bulldoze at whim. You can't seriously think that your fiancé, who was excited about having a wedding, would say yes to a courthouse marriage and totally ixnay the celebration that she was looking forward to. Can you? It sounds like you have no idea how to compromise, nor do you have any instinct for when someone's asking you for something totally normal before deciding that only your opinion matters and everything else is stupid. AITA, the fact you cared more about getting your deposits back than having a fiancé to marry, Lamau. I'm so far through the comments, I'd completely forgotten about the deposits. Honestly, OP is an even bigger a-hole than some of the comments state. Imagine having a fiancé who you love, but money being more important than their feelings or creating lasting memories together. Posted by user Well-Upholstered Lady, titled, Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband with all the responsibilities? My husband and I have been together since our late teens. We're now 30. Since the very beginning, my husband has been awful at what I would call basic responsibilities. This means that until recently, I've been responsible for 90% of all cooking, cleaning, and organizing. We don't have kids, but we do have pets, and my husband has several hobbies. Unfortunately, all my free time is spent keeping the house in order, and whilst my husband helps out more now than ever, he thinks I'm too clean. I don't think so, but it's possible I am. And since he does 1 or 2 DIY projects a year, like putting up shelves or painting the cellar, he's doing his part. He's so much better these days, but it's taken a lot of fighting to get there. So I have fully dropped the rope on all of it. I warned him last year that this would happen and didn't buy gifts for birthdays on his side of the family. He's forgotten 4 completely this year and had to panic buy something in the supermarket the day of a party. But now I'm worried that, with Christmas fast approaching, he's still not quite getting it. I've decided that if he wants me to go to 3 family gatherings over Christmas week for his side alone, I need to use the rest of my time for my degree, my job, and my own side of the family. So I'm not using all my free time cleaning the house anymore. I'm cleaning a little, but I think that if he's not at work, it's his turn to do the jobs around the home. Now, he invites our mutual friends round, and they make comments about the state of the house, which makes me very anxious and angry with him, but he dismisses this and says he didn't notice the mess or the comments. I'm not about to tell them point blank that I was working all day and husband was at home, so any issues with dog hair or a full litter tray are his fault, because I don't want to embarrass him, but it stings and makes me wonder if I'm doing the right thing. I don't want people uncomfortable in my home, and honestly, it's not as clean as I would like. Also, we keep going into our overdraft because I'm no longer tracking our bills. He has access to all our finances, same as I do, but he never bothers to check because he knows I'll take money out of my savings to cover if we have a tough month. Well, I've completely run out of money, and he wants to go Christmas shopping. He asked me to pick out all the gifts, and I just ignored him. But I haven't told him we're broke, because I feel he should check the accounts himself. Part of me wants to take the time to step back and let him see what it takes to run a household without support, and finally get him to understand the issue. But I worry that if he is left in charge, then Christmas will be a crap show, and then I'd be the a-hole when everyone finds out it's because he doesn't put in the effort and I knew he'd mess it up. Edit. Since I'm getting a lot of questions, I thought I'd clarify a few things. My husband has improved massively compared to what he's used to be like, but this is something we have sat down and discussed multiple times. He has offered to ask his mother to be our cleaner so he doesn't have to, and when I suggested a cleaning rota some time ago, his response was, and I quote, "That sounds like a trap so you can find more excuses to be annoyed with me when I don't do it." Just so you understand, I work 40 hours a week, do a master's degree, and clean and care for a large house with multiple pets. My daily chores begin at 6 a.m, and usually I'll stop for a 20-minute break at lunchtime. At about 6 p.m. for an hour whilst dinner cooks, and then really settle down at about 8:30 p.m. That's my life, 7 days a week. And even if I'm not vacuuming or cleaning the bathroom, I'm washing up or collecting cups left on the floor, or folding laundry, or, typically at this time of the year, shopping for and wrapping gifts for 25 plus people, whilst my husband plays video games and only offers to help when the job is done, or conveniently doesn't hear me ask for help. When he does assist, I praise him and thank him, even if he's done it wrong. Wait until at least the next day to redo it, because I know it's important to encourage him, not to nag. This issue isn't even solely about cleaning, because we both have large families, and I don't have time to pick out, buy, and wrap gifts for 25 plus people, as well as work full-time and do a degree. I don't have time for hobbies or for socializing anymore, and asking him to help out hasn't resulted in anything close to a 50-50 split. I'm just going to go ahead and say, no, you're not the a-hole for that, and I do think you need to sit him down at this point because he's not going to realize it himself. That's a lot of work on your half, and I'm sure he has some work that he needs to do, but he can really cut out some time playing video games and help you around the house. It would really help, and it would help put both of you guys at ease of mind. Not the a-hole, but do not use making a point to put your family unit into financial distress. I understand your desire to show him how much you do and how much he needs to learn and change, but at some point, dipping into savings and running out of money has dire consequences. Have you considered divvying up the duties? I can't tell, but your post sounds like you dropped everything into his lap, and that doesn't sound healthy either. A good partnership means you share responsibility and each use your strengths to do things for the household. I've just dropped everything. You're right, that isn't healthy at all. Have you thought of couples therapy to discuss this and build better communication? This is what needs to happen. Opie's husband is also my husband, and we've also been together since our 20s. It was all fun and games when we were in college, had 20 to 30 hours of real responsibility per week, and were basically playing house in our tiny apartment. I cooked, I cleaned, I didn't mind. It was all fun, new, and exciting. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I was basically training his expectations. Fast forward 15 years, and we both have extremely demanding careers, we're pretty much never home, and the size of our house has tripled. Mama doesn't have time to do this crap anymore. We went to therapy, and that helped my husband realize that while he doesn't see or get bothered by the mess, it wreaks havoc on my mental state and overwhelms me. It helped me see that my response to feeling overwhelmed, or really any negative emotion, is to jump to anger. Putting the two together, his inability to pick up after himself or do basic stuff was dumping a mental load onto me, which I then responded by lashing out at him like a disobedient child. Once we knew this problem, we were able to figure out the solution using our words. And OP says, "This is so helpful. Thank you." Update, I left my husband to deal with it all, and it's working. Slowly. Somewhere in my post history, you'll see I was unsure whether it was okay to dump the full responsibility of the household onto my husband over Christmas, since he clearly didn't respect me or the effort I put in to keep the house clean and feed the pets and otherwise organize absolutely everything for both him and myself. So I stepped back. As many suggested, I spoke to him about keeping an eye on the finances, and I personally checked that the pets were cared for, but only when he wasn't around so he didn't see me helping in any way. But that's all I did. Edit, I stepped away for 3 weeks, whilst my deadlines were at their worst. I have, of course, begun to take over half of the household chores and organising again, but have deliberately scaled back how much I do so that he doesn't go back to his old comfort zone. And it has started to work. I came home multiple times to a cooked dinner or a freshly stocked fridge, the dogs walked, and a cup of tea ready for me. As the season progressed and it became clear that I was struggling with the stress of my assignments, I'm doing a master's alongside work and Christmas time is full of deadlines for both. He started fielding requests for people to come over, running me hot baths, and shooing away noisy visitors who wanted to interrupt my work so that he could run the house in my stead. It's not perfect, but it's damn close. He's spent a weekend helping me clean the house from top to bottom, and now helps maintain that level of clean. He went out and bought a new vacuum specifically to make the job quicker and easier, so it can be done more regularly, and I come home 2 or 3 days a week to him hoovering the downstairs without having to be asked. I don't know what did it. I know he spent a week where we were very tense, and the house was in near squalor before he put his video games away and stepped up. I know he rushed around manically trying to find Christmas gifts for everyone once it became clear I wasn't doing it for him, and the stress was a lot for him. I know he came very close to throwing a stop on multiple occasions when it seemed he was solely responsible for the cooking and cleaning, whilst I hid in the spare room on my laptop. But he's taken a long, hard look at life without me there to pick up after him, and he's started to pick up after himself. Thanks to everyone who helped me realize I definitely needed a break. There was some good advice here, and it was great to hear that I'm not an a-hole. Edit. Thanks to everyone who now thinks it means I'm doing nothing at all, and he's gonna leave me. Of course that's how it works. Look, you said I don't know what did it. I can tell you what did it. You stopped doing his share, so he stepped up and started doing it. Glad to hear your decision is having a good effect. From the title, I initially thought you left your husband, and I was interested to hear what the outcome of that would be on your quality of life. But it's good to hear it didn't come to that. I bet he complained to someone at work, and they told him if he wanted to stay married, he'd better stop acting like a child and help his wife like she is his partner. That brings up an interesting point. To actually carry this out, OP had to get to the point that she was willing to consciously take the risk that her partner might go the other way. Her husband could have decided the relationship wasn't worth that much to him. This could explain why so many spouses who feel like they do all the work still shoulder the burden. That's the sunk cost fallacy, isn't it? Posted by user, My Dad Died 2019. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I went to a funeral I'm not invited to? I don't really know where to start, but my dad died. He, my mum, and 3 out of 4 of my siblings stopped talking to me about 7 years ago because I decided to leave the Mormon church. That's literally all I did. I wasn't vocal about my disbelief, I didn't try to get them to see my way, I just had my name removed from the church records, and they decided not to talk to me, besides to send me talks from their prophet about how I'm not going to be in heaven with them. I still love my family very deeply, and would be lying if I said I didn't miss them every day, and would probably have just pretended I still believed and stayed in the church if I knew I would be disowned by them. I got a freaking text this morning from my sister, saying that my dad died last Saturday and was doing me a courtesy by telling me in person, so I wouldn't find out through Facebook. I asked when the funeral was and got a call from my uncle that went like this: You aren't invited to the funeral. Don't show up and embarrass your family and cause your mother any more grief. That's not fair, he was... End of call. And now I'm getting texts from my other siblings saying that I can always see Dad again one day, if I come back to church. And I just don't know what to do. I'm kind of heartbroken. I know I wasn't his favorite person when he had died, but goodness sakes, I'm still his daughter. He was my dad. He taught me to ride a bike and to cook and how to shoot a gun. He was there through my first breakup and when I graduated, and when I moved into my first apartment. I still love him. I had hopes of reconciliation, and had dreamed of him walking me down the aisle one day. But now I can't even say goodbye to them because I decided I don't believe in their God? The funeral is this Friday, and I really want to be there. I'm grieving too. Would I be the a-hole if I went? I'd say no, you wouldn't be the a-hole if you went, but as with how the way that the Mormon church is structured, I highly doubt that you'd be let in, and I don't know what would happen if you did go. Edit. First, I want to thank you all for the advice and kind words. It really did help. I called my brother before his flight yesterday, and he encouraged me to go to my grandparents' house and talk to them. There's a lot of stuff surrounding my dad's death that I didn't know about, and it plays a big role in why my mum and family hate me even more now, and don't want me at the funeral. My dad had been diagnosed with thyroid cancer in June. He talked to my grandma and grandpa about me and what had happened. I guess he had been against cutting me off, but did it because my mum ultimately said it was her or me. He talked about them wanting to reconnect with me because he didn't want to die on bad terms. This caused a fight with my parents, and they argued about it up until last week. My dad decided he didn't care if my mum left him and started staying at my grandparents' house. He was on his way to my place when he was hit by a drunk driver and killed. So my mum and family ultimately blamed me for his death. Last night was a hard night for me, and I'll admit that I partly blame myself too. My dad's sister is letting me stay with her and ride with her and my grandparents to the funeral. My dad's family has been very kind to me this past 24 hours, and I'm glad I'll have them to lean on during the funeral. I don't think my mum will make a scene at the funeral if I'm with my aunt. She's scared of her, but my brothers and sisters might. My big brother's flight comes in soon, and he and I already talked about going together to the wake my dad's side is hosting. I'm hoping since it's at a bar, none of my Mormon family will be there, and I can be surrounded by people who I love and remember my dad. Honestly, I was still torn about going because I do feel a little guilty about his death, but he wanted to spread the rest of his life with me in it, so I'll definitely be at his funeral. Man, I've been covering some really sad stories lately. God damn, that hurts. That really hurts to read. My God. A big fat not the a-hole here. They are being incredibly petty and wrong for treating you this way. My advice would be to contact the funeral director and explain the situation. If you don't want to cause a scene at the funeral, then maybe you can arrange something with the funeral director to set up a more private way for you to pay your respects. Funeral parlors deal with this more often than you think, and they're usually very nice about it. Not everyone's family gets along. Ex-Mormon checking in here. Guaranteed this funeral will take place in a Mormon church building, not a funeral home. However, there's a good chance there will be a viewing at the funeral home the day before the funeral. If this family lives in an area with a large Mormon population, such as Utah, odds are the family picked that parlor because they are either Mormon and or deal a lot with mourning funerals. So there might be a small chance OP could call the funeral home and request a private viewing for a chance to say her goodbyes before the actual funeral. By the way, this and similar treatment towards ex-Mormons from believing family and friends is not that uncommon. Mormons are downright horrible and nasty to non-believers. My best friend is Mormon and I am a witch. She is one of the kindest people I know. One day I broke my leg playing a sport. She took me to the hospital, arranged a meal train from the members of her church, and had other members of the church come by to check up on me when she wasn't able. My teammates, on the other hand, didn't do a damn thing. No one tried to convert me, not even once. Not all Mormons are bad. Maybe some of the ones you know are, but bad people are bad no matter who or what they worship. Not all people are bad. That's an obvious fact of life, so I didn't bother pointing it out. But the key difference is that you already had different beliefs when you became friends. If you were Mormon and then left the church to become a witch, your experience would probably be much different. True friendship, like the one that it appears you have, embrace differences between people. Most relationships in the Mormon church are superficial and can't sustain when somebody decides to believe differently. What people responding to this sad post may not realize is that funerals of active Mormons are held in Mormon chapels, not funeral homes, and they are run by Mormon bishops or stake presidents, higher-up Mormon leaders, who have the final say on the music and speakers. The emphasis in these funerals is to preach the Mormon gospel. Mormon funerals are viewed as missionary opportunities and a chance to preach the Mormon plan of salvation, the very thing that has unfortunately inspired this family to shun her. So, OP, Even though in my opinion, you would definitely be not that a-hole for going to the funeral, I honestly think it may bring you more emotional harm than healing, or closure if you do go, especially given your family's attitude. They seem extremely close-minded and harsh, even by active Mormon standards. I'm worried it would be a horrible experience you'd have to recover from. If I were you, I would try to think of something alternative that might bring you actual comfort. Maybe jot down some favorite childhood memories of your dad, invite some close friends over, or go out to dinner with them, and share your feelings and stories in a safe place with people you trust. Kind of having your own informal memorial for him, and later, by yourself, with friends or your military brother, visit his graveside and say whatever you'd like to say to your dad to have him there. Kindest thoughts, and I'm really sorry this is happening to you. Update: would I be the a-hole if I went to a funeral I'm not invited to? First, I want to say thanks, because even though this isn't an advice sub, I received good advice on my original post, and it really helped me reach out to my dad's side of the family. I did end up going to my dad's service and funeral. My aunt took me along with my grandparents. Thanks to all the ex-Mormons who told me about what I should expect at the funeral, if I hadn't known what was going to happen, I would have probably been even more of a mess than I already was. My mum and her family were not happy to see me. She didn't even talk to me during the funeral, which I guess is a lot better than her yelling at me. My older brother sat with me and my dad's side of the family during the funeral, and was my support through the whole thing. He and my grandparents even encouraged me to get up and share stories about my dad when the time came for people to give final words. The wake was nice. I guess my dad would sneak out and get a drink with my uncle every now and then, and so they had the wake at their favorite bar. My brother supporting me through everything and realizing he would have my back even when it came to our mum means the world to me. I'm still trying to process his death, especially since he died on his way to see me. I've started seeing a therapist at my brother and aunt's suggestion. I was in a really bad place for a few weeks after the funeral, and it's really been a lot of help. Yesterday was my dad's birthday, and my aunt and I drove up to visit his grave. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, but hard nonetheless. Thanks for all the help and advice. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the content today. If you guys loved watching it as much as I loved making it, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below, maybe like the video, who knows. I'd also like to take this time to thank my awesome Patreon and channel members. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be homeless on the streets of Ireland, crying Irish dancing all over town. It would just be a mess. But no, for real, you guys are up on the screen now. Thank each and every one of you guys. And if you personally want to join the club yourself, there are links down in the description below. There's also the join button next to the subscribe button. Small monthly fee, but hey, it goes a long way to help me create more awesome content. Well, with that said, guys, I hope you do have a lovely day, night, sleep, evening, day at work, day at school, whatever you're up to. I hope you keep awesome today. You're looking amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.